This video is sponsored by Paradox Interactive. This is the Austrian Empire in 1538. We're the #1 great power in the world with almost 3,500 dev. We have Spain, Poland, and Lithuania as junior partners, Bulgaria, Byzantium, and Norway as regular vassals, and the entirety of the HRE as our vassals because we've already revoked the privilege. Running level 3 advisors that can easily be upgraded to level 5, we have Emperor Maximilian I von Habsburg, a super powerful scripted ruler. Our economy is doing amazing and it's gonna be even better with every single month tick. We're ahead of time in every single technology. We've already completed diplomatic, religious, and influence ideas. We've completed most of the super amazing brand new Austrian mission tree with some amazing missions and modifiers. Our missionary strength is already at 15.5% and we're ready to convert every single province in the world. An extremely powerful military with an absolutely huge force limit that we could build it up if we want to, but we don't even really need to. And obviously every single imperial nation is our subject. This is how you can do the same and achieve the easiest world conquest and one faith you've ever done. Hi everyone and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Austria for EU4 1.37 Winds of Change. So Austria is a nation that starts off in Central Europe, obviously as the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, and obviously, as many of you know by now, it is one of the most powerful nations in the game for many things, but most importantly, to do a world conquest and one faith with, because I do think it is the easiest way to achieve both of those goals. As Austria, we do start off with the Austrian Archduchy Tier 1 government reform right here, which gives us additional bonuses to strong duchies, data state privilege. We also have minus 33% liberty desire from subjects and plus 5% nobles influence. And as Austria, we also have amazing national ideas that will help us towards those goals, such as plus 10% morale of armies, plus 30% improved relations, plus a 50% chance of a new heir as a finisher, and in the meantime we have a plus 10% imperial authority growth and minus 15% diplo annex cost. Another double idea right here, minus 10% fort maintenance and plus 15% national garrison growth, minus 0.5 interest per annum and 0.05 yearly inflation reduction, plus 2 diplo rep, plus 2% missionary strength, plus 1 diplomatic relations, plus 5% discipline, and plus 30% reinforced speed. So an amazing set of national ideas right here. The main updates that Austria has received in 1.37 are to its mission tree right here, which I do personally think is a lot more fun and a lot more ways that you can do these missions compared to the previous mission tree. But also I do think that Austria has also been made way easier to play than any previous update so far, which will make this your easiest world conquest or one faith ever. By starting off with some of these missions right here, we will be able to PU Bohemia and Hungary, whether through an event or through our missions. Then we're able to get a free PU over on Castile/Spain without ever going to war with them. We will be able to also PU Poland and any of their subjects right here. We'll be able to get the Burgundian succession and we'll be able to rack up many more subjects through diplo vassalization, forced vassalization, and forcing PUs as well. And of course, the most powerful thing as Austria is the fact that we are the Holy Roman Emperor. Everyone already loves us. We're going to be passing all of these imperial reforms right here before centralizing the HRE by revoking the privilege, and every member state in the Holy Roman Empire, not just these guys right here, but also many other nations that we're going to add to the HRE, all of them will become our subjects, our vassals, and we'll be able to do the easiest vassal swarm world conquest where you're just literally gonna sit back, relax, and let all your minions do your work. By playing as Austria, you'll be doing all of those things and doing the easiest world conquest you've ever seen. So sit back, relax, and learn what you need to do as Austria in 1.37, my favorite nation in the game. Alright, right here we are as Austria. Now the first change you may notice right at the start compared to previous patches is the fact that we do start off with the house divided nobles privilege right here, which, let's be real, isn't that bad at all. It just gives us minus 10% tax and plus 0.05 monthly autonomy change. To revoke this privilege, we either need to get this guy to be in charge or for him to die, which will happen either way of course, or we can take this decision right here, unite the Habsburg lands, which requires us to do some things that aren't really that difficult, but us getting 40% crownland and not using any of those monarch queen privileges is gonna suck, and let's be real, the bonuses to this one aren't that great aside from the tax. So the way we're gonna remove this privilege is by letting Ladislaus take the throne and not by doing this decision right here. So this is something you literally don't need to worry about. So now your game can start. First, you're gonna go into your estates and summon the Diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're gonna give the clergy religious state and clerical advisory council, along with religious diplomats and clerical education. Then we're gonna give the nobility primacy of the nobility, increased levies, and aristocratic councillors. And then we're gonna give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, commercial advisory board, and indebted to the burghers. We also have a new burgher privilege right here, especially for Austria, Fugger family privileges, which gives us some bonuses right here to certain things, but I don't think it's good enough for us to give out. We'd rather use something else. And then we're gonna seize land. Next, it's time to go into your advisors and hire 3 advisors. We're not making that much money right at the start here, but pretty soon we'll be expanding and developing our gold mine that we start off over here in Intel, so money really isn't that much of a problem, even though we have pretty bad tax modifiers right here. Either way, go ahead and hire whichever level 1 admin advisor you want. An inflation reduction guy is pretty good, so I am gonna hire him. Then go ahead and hire a diplorep or improve relations level 1 dip advisor. However, we do always have this half-cost level 2 improve relations guy, which I actually do recommend hiring right off the bat because we will need to be improving relations. So get this scripted level 2 guy, he's always available. And then get a morale, discipline, fort defense, or manpower level 1 mill advisor. I do have this discipline guy who's a level 1 guy, so I am gonna hire him. And that's your advisors done. Now it's time to set up the diplomatic game, the most important aspect of playing as Austria. And for our missions right here, for this first one, secure electors, we need to have 4 electors voting for us, which obviously all of them already are, but we need them to have a more than 75 opinion with us. So we're gonna go ahead and ally 4 electors. That's pretty simple. And keep in mind that as Austria, pretty much for the entirety of the campaign, you're gonna be way over your relations limit, but that's completely normal. But with that out of the way, these are the relations you wanna establish. So you wanna ally 4 electors. I recommend allying Brandenburg and then try and get some of these other guys right here, whichever ones you want to, but not Bohemia. So Brandenburg and 3 other electors, whichever ones you want, not Bohemia ever. Then the other relations we want to establish are a royal marriage with Burgundy, and an alliance of course, an alliance and royal marriage with Castile, and an alliance with the Pope, and an alliance and royal marriage with Hungary. So those are the relations you want to have. 4 electors, one of which is Brandenburg and never Bohemia, Burgundy, Castile, the Pope, and Hungary. So go ahead and start doing that. It will take you a couple of months to get those relations established. In the meantime though, you can go ahead and take these 2 armies right here and put them both in Vienna because we do need to rearrange them. And then what you want to do right here is go ahead and set some rivals. I recommend rivaling whichever nations you want to, maybe the guys that have rivaled you. I'm gonna go for the Ottomans, Venice, and Denmark. Just like that, those are your rivals done. Additionally, you do have a light ship right here. You can tell it to protect trade over in Venice and go home during war. Now that I've begun establishing relations, let me explain the mission tree a little bit to you because it has changed since the one that we got in Emperor. This mission right here, or this branch over here, these 4 missions, they all rely on us getting the Burgundian inheritance or expanding over there. So no need to take a look at any of this right here until we actually get the Burgundian inheritance. Then this first mission right here that requires the electors to like us will give us a restoration of Union CB on Bohemia, and that's pretty much how we kickstart our game, by PUing Bohemia. That's gonna be our first war. And then you may notice that these following missions right here are locked. That's because after we do this mission, we can select whether to have these 6 missions focus on us expanding in the HRE via the HRE path, basically the way we want to do this game, or whether we want to go through sort of the conquest route, which is more gonna focus on us conquering Germany and maybe even forming Germany later on. More on this later, but the branch that I'm gonna recommend that you take is the HRE branch. Then over here we have these 3 missions that focus on us getting Iberia, and this is probably the most powerful mission that's been introduced in this latest update. As you can see, for this mission right here, we need to have the Habsburgs in charge of Castile, which is actually really easy to get, either through the event where we both rival France, or by just asking to put a relative on their throne using favors. And then we also need to have 100 legitimacy and have twice the amount of dev that Castile has. That's going to be pretty difficult to get, so that's why we're going to be doing this mission way later on, but don't worry, you're still going to do it. And then you will be able to get the Restoration of Union CB on Castile, but if we also have 80 trust with them, they have 190 relations with us, and we have 4 Diplo rep, we will be able to actually get Castile or Aragon or whoever Castile has as junior partners as well as our junior partner for free just by clicking this mission. A super powerful mission that we'll get to later. No need to concern yourself with it now. Just keep having friendly relations with Castile and don't worry about where they expand. Then this other branch right here focuses on us reining in the Italians. We will be doing that easier than in the previous patches too, so that's excellent right there. We'll get to that, no need to worry. And then this mission right here focuses on us PUing Poland after we already PU Bohemia. Obviously, we'll get there when we get there. And then this entire branch focuses on us conquering the Balkans, Hungary, and the Ottomans after we actually PU Hungary, and we'll be able to do some other shenanigans with them once we get there. Obviously, we got Austria-Hungary in this patch as well. More on that later. These missions right here focus on us sort of colonizing. You'll be doing that way later in the game. And then these missions down here are sort of internal Austrian missions for flavor and a little bit of internal fun. So those are the changes that have been made to the Austrian mission tree. And after a month or two have passed, you should have established all of your diplomatic relations, which, let me repeat them again, are Burgundy, Castile, the Pope, Hungary as your regular allies, and then 4 electors, one of which is Brandenburg, as your allies in the HRE. In my game, it's Brandenburg, Cologne, Mainz, and the Palatinate. Those are the guys that I have gotten. Another important thing that I need to mention right here is that you should always be the one that sends a royal marriage offer to Burgundy. Never accept a royal marriage offer from them. That's because if you accept their royal marriage, it'll get broken when the Burgundian ruler dies, which means even though we've royal married them, we're not eligible for the Burgundian succession. So by you sending a royal marriage offer to them, you are eligible. So make sure to always send them a royal marriage offer and never accept one. But after all of these relations have been established right here, you will be able to take the mission Secure Electors, which will enable us to choose the branching missions, and it will give us a Restoration of Union CB on Bohemia. But let's not take it just yet. First, we want to assess the situation with Bohemia. So let's see them right here. They're only allied to Switzerland in my game. Bohemia usually never gets strong allies. They'll have 1 to 3 small allies in the HRE, and they do also start off with Glogau and Opole as their subjects, which means you will be able to beat them by yourself either way. So there we go. In my game, we're pretty much good to take this mission, even though by the time I take it, they'll get 1 or 2 more allies. No big deal. But first, before you take it, go ahead and take your army right here, just like that, and go ahead and delete 1 cavalry regiment from it. There we go. And then we're going to want to build up 7 more infantry regiments, so your army is 24. And then I also recommend giving your ruler military command just like that. At this point, you should also start focusing on dip, and you should also go ahead and hire the Free Company just like that to help you out. And if you want to, you can also hire the Grand Company just like that if you're a little less experienced, or if Bohemia has, let's say, 3 allies or something like that. So now let's wait for the army to build up, and then once again we'll assess the Bohemia situation, and only then we'll possibly take this mission. Once your diplomats have been freed up from establishing all of those diplomatic relations, with one of them you should start spying on Bohemia. This is so we can get sieges done a little bit faster, and with another one you should go ahead and start improving relations with allies. This third one we're going to keep free so we can declare on Bohemia, and then he's also going to improve relations with allies. And once your armies have been recruited, you can go ahead and assess Bohemia again. No changes in my situation. They're still only allied to Switzerland, which sure is annoying to piece out, but not that big of a deal since we only need 60% war score here. So then you're going to go ahead and take this mission, Secure Electors, and just like that we gain a PUCB on Bohemia. And then you can go ahead and preview the missions right here. There we go. This is the Legacy of Charlemagne branch. And these are the missions that focus on the gameplay we want to do, basically, you know, centralizing the HRE, getting all of these guys as our vassals, and all of these missions right here from this branch give us some nice bonuses to Imperial Authority, to our Diplo rep, and it gives bonuses to some other member states of the HRE as well. This is the branch we want to go with. This other branch right here, the German Unification branch, sort of focuses on us conquering stuff over in the HRE, basically conquering the German guys. And if you go with this branch, you're sort of not going to be focusing that much on the HRE, and instead you're going to focus on forming Germany. That's not the route we want to go with. We want to go with this one, the Legacy of Charlemagne branch, and after that you can select this right here, and those are the missions we've gotten. But now that that's all done, we do have the Restoration of Union CB over on Bohemia, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and PU them. So at this point, a couple of months after the game starts, there's your first war started. Let's go in PU Bohemia. When you get the event East Frisia offers to join the Empire, obviously you should welcome them in the Empire. Keep an eye out on the successor of Vladislav III event, where Poland chooses whether to get Lithuania as a junior partner. Ideally, you'd want them to have Lithuania as a junior partner, because then we're gonna get them later on as well. Another change I need to mention regarding Poland is the change to the mission which we PU them with. Basically, in the previous missions, in the previous mission tree, we needed to conquer a little bit of Poland right here, pretty much a couple of these areas right here, in order to then get the PUCB on them. Basically, we needed to conquer all of this. Now that has been changed, and what we need to do to gain the PUCB on Poland is for them to have less than 400 development. And if they have Lithuania right here and Mazovia like they do right now, as you can see, they do have less than 400 development. If they get Moldavia, they should still have less than 400. However, after they get Danzig, and if they expand a little bit, they probably will be above 400, which means we still need to do a little bit of dismantling on them, maybe take just a couple of provinces, not as much as we needed to earlier, but there's definitely one less war to be done with Poland either way. If Hungary gets Moldavia as a march instead of Poland, then that's even better. We might be able to PU them right away without dismantling them at all. Either way, what I wanted to say is it's still easier than in the previous patch. A couple of months after you start the war with Bohemia, you may be able to call in an ally. You can do it if you want to, just be careful that they might get pieced out and the adversaries might make them break the alliance with you. And there we go, after I sieged down Prague and Glogau right here, that's about the only war score we need regarding forts. The other things you can see right here obviously aren't forts. So a pretty easy war. I didn't even need to call in Köln. I also fought one battle versus Bohemia right here where I beat them up, and that's it. Once you gain 60% war score with Bohemia, it's done. You can call it. You can keep going a little more to take some money so you can pay off their debt and they're more loyal, but at 60%, you're good to go ahead and peace out. I'm gonna peace out as soon as I get this fort right here, just so I can get a little bit of money from them. And there we go, now that this fort is fallen, I'm good to peace out. And obviously the option you're gonna select is Union with Bohemia right here. It only costs 60% war score, 40-something aggressive expansion, not that bad. And something else you can do in this war that is completely optional, if you want to, is you can take the gold mine that Bohemia has, and that'll put you up at 2 gold mines, so you'll make a little more cash in the early game. Not too relevant in my opinion. Another thing you could do is take their capital Prague, which obviously you'll need more war score for, and it's a lot more aggressive expansion. But the thing about Prague is it has the monument right here, the historical center of Prague, which gives us some imperial authority growth. Both of these things are good to have, but they're not necessary at all, since you're going to end up owning these later anyway, after you annex or integrate Bohemia or just inherit them. So in my opinion, it's good enough to just get the union with Bohemia and as much cash as you can get. And there we go. That's your first war done, and Bohemia is your junior partner. After this war is done, there's a couple of things you can do. You can take the mission Crown of Bohemia, which there's 2 ways to complete. If we complete it through Conquest, we gain legitimacy and imperial authority growth. Basically, if you went to conquer Prague, you got that monument with imperial authority growth, and to reward you for that, this mission will also give you more imperial authority growth. But since all of us, almost all of us, did this in the PU fashion, we'll gain +1 diplo relations and -10% liberty, desire, and subjects. And also Bohemia will insta-annex their subjects, just like that. And there we go, that's how you complete this mission. Then we also have the option to take a couple of more missions. This one right here surpassed the Poles. As we can see right now, it's only giving us a perma-claim on the region of Poland. That's because Poland and their subjects are too powerful. And I guess this isn't what that mission is looking at, but the total development of Poland and its subjects, which if Poland gets Lithuania is more than 400. So we still need to dismantle them a little bit, otherwise we wouldn't get the restoration of Union CB on Poland, which we want. Then the other mission right here is the Decline of Hungary mission, which will give us a restoration of Union CB on Hungary. Now, this is also a mission we don't want to take right now. That's because, as you all know, our heir right here, Ladislaus Posthumus, is also the heir of Hungary, which I guess they haven't gone with just yet. So first we want to see what happens with that. If Hungary chooses to become our junior partner for free when Ladislaus right here turns 15, then that's excellent. We'll get Hungary as a junior partner for free. If not, only then we'll be taking this mission right here that gives us a restoration of Union CB on Hungary, and then we're gonna go ahead and fight them. So for now, even though you can take these two missions, don't touch them just yet. We don't need to take them now. Another thing you might be able to do at this point is usurp the electorate right here, because as we all know, Bohemia does start off as an HRE elector, and we can just steal that electorship slot from them, and we can always vote for ourselves. You do want to do that, but not right now. As we can see, it'll cost 5 Imperial Authority, which isn't a big deal, but what is a big deal is Bohemia's opinion of us will change by a -100. And after we've just PU'd them, they're already mad at us. So what we want to do first is get Bohemia to above +100, so when we take that decision and we lose 100 opinion with them, it doesn't drop below 0, because if it drops below 0 and our guy dies, Bohemia will just break free. So first, we want to improve relations with them, pay off their debt and stuff like that, just like that. We want to get them to above 100, and then we'll usurp the electorate. Do that whenever you fulfill those requirements that I just told you. But now that we're done with Bohemia, you can go ahead and delete the grain company if you hired it, and go back home, chill a little bit, improve relations with them, and pretty soon we're going to start our next war, which is 99% of the time going to be versus Venice. And there we go, Moldavia actually chose to go to Poland. The ideal situation would be that they choose to go to Hungary, but it's no big deal even if they go to Poland. Once you're done with the whole Bohemia thing, what I recommend that you do is activate the Encourage Development State Edict over in the state of Tyrol right here, and develop your gold mine in Intal up to 10 production. Once this war is done, you should also start spying on Venice. Once you dev up Intel a little bit, you'll also be able to take the mission Austrian Silver right here, which gives us a 10% local dev discount and minus 50% local gold depletion chance over in Intel until the end of the game. Pretty powerful. And we also gain this event right here, where we gain an additional +1 local goods produced in Intel. A very, very nice mission that helps out with the economy in the early part of the game. And there we go, the event for Ladislas has already happened for Hungary right here, so it's already their heir, but we still need to wait until he turns 15 to see what Hungary actually chooses. So after that, after he turns 15, we'll know if we get Hungary as our junior partner. Basically, after we also get him as our ruler. After you've built a spy network for Istria right here, it is time to start up your second war, which, like I said, is gonna be versus Venice. Our main goal in this war versus Venice is for us to take these 4 provinces over here, which are located in the Balkans, so we can gain access to these nations down here, so we can fight them, whether before or after we get Hungary as a junior partner. And as a little bonus, we're also gonna dismantle Venice a little bit by making them perhaps give Ravenna back to the Pope, maybe give these 2 provinces back to Milan, maybe make them release nations such as Verona, Padua, Aquileia right here. The choice is totally yours, what you do to dismantle them. However, the important thing is to take these 4 provinces right here. We don't care about the rest of their stuff down here. We'll let someone else take care of that, or we'll fight them for it later. So, whenever you're ready, go ahead and declare on Venice. In my game, unfortunately, they've allied Aragon, which is something that doesn't happen too often, and Aragon is usually stronger than any other allies they might get. But either way, I can call in some of my own allies in this war to help out, mainly Castile and Hungary right here, so it shouldn't be difficult. So there we go. As soon as you build a spy network on Venice, go ahead and declare and call in whoever you want. You should be able to take them down. Our main goal are these 4 provinces. There you go. And once you go ahead and beat up Venice, it is time to peace out. Now, if you get lucky and if the Ottomans declare on them as well, their navy will get destroyed and you will be able to siege down their capital. But what I'm going to show you right here, you can do without the war score from their capital. So what you're going to do is obviously take these 4 provinces right here for yourself, and then that'll be about enough if you want to, but if not, you can go ahead and give stuff to other guys as well. In my game right here, I'm going to transfer occupation of Ravenna over to the Pope and give it back to him because that is his core. The Pope is going to join the HRE later anyway. We want to have good relations with them. And what I'll also do is I'll make them release Aquileia right there, Verona right there, and Padua right there, for example, and that's about enough. You can make them give a core or 2 back to Milan, but it's really no big deal since Milan will be able to take those provinces back itself. And there we go. That's about all you want from Venice. I'm also going to get war reps and all of their money. And that's your second war done. The main thing, of course, was the focus on these provinces right here. After you wrap up the war with Venice, your relations with Bohemia should be good enough to where you will be able to usurp the electorate. At that point, you should go ahead and do it. And just like that, Bohemia is no longer an elector. Now we're an elector, and obviously, right after that, you're going to want to go ahead and vote for yourself. Something else you can do after you do this is take the mission Imperial Ascendancy, most likely, which gives us 50 Diplo points, land force limit, and Diplo annex cost. And additionally, this is a bonus to the HRE princes. All of them will gain 50 of each monarch power. Super powerful for them. All of these missions right here pretty much in some way or another benefit the nations inside the HRE, which obviously we do want them to be powerful because all of these guys later on are going to become our subject. So definitely go ahead and take that mission. After this war is done, you're also going to want to build up some additional transports right here to help you move your troops around to some of these disconnected provinces. 10 should be about enough, no big deal. Now, by the time you wrap that war up, it should be pretty close to Ladislaus Posthumus turning 15. Maybe he is already 15 in some of your guys' games. It didn't take me that long to conquer Bohemia and Venice, so I got about 3 years of waiting right here. But no matter how much or how little time you have to wait until Ladislaus Posthumus is 15, that's what you're gonna do. You're just gonna chill and recover, and obviously core up the provinces you took from Venice. After he turns 15, I'm gonna show you what to do. After the Renaissance has spawned, basically after 1450 usually, you do want to activate the Encourage Development State Edict in your capital state of Austria proper and develop Vienna up to 30 to help speed up the spawning of the Renaissance and to tick off the age objective for a large development city. Since it's already above 15, I do recommend expanding infrastructure as well, and then you can develop it up to 30 in whichever way you want. Of course, make sure to start developing only after you've gotten Tech 4 in every category, or at least Dev in the category that you're already 4 in, just like that. Now, once Ladislaus right here turns 15, then you should be getting a pop-up if Hungary hasn't chosen him to remain as the heir. Now, in my game, it's been a couple of months right here since Ladislaus turned 15, and since he became, technically the ruler of Hungary, and since I didn't get a pop-up that they rejected him, that's already excellent news. So that is something you do want to happen right here. Once he turns 15, if you get the pop-up that Hungary rejects him or something, then it's bad news for you, and you're not going to be getting Hungary as a junior partner, and instead you are going to gain a restoration of Union CB through that event. So if he's turned 15 and if Hungary rejected him and you've gotten a PU CB on Hungary, then you're going to break your alliance and royal marriage with Hungary and chill until you can actually declare the restoration of Union war on them. And at that point, you could also take this mission. Doesn't really matter since you'll be getting the restoration of Union CB on them anyway through that event and not just through this mission. But if he's 15 and he's still here after a couple of months, then you're good and you can continue to wait until you're able to abdicate. For your tier 2 government reform as Austria, I recommend taking curtail noble privileges. That's because as the HRE emperor, manpower really isn't a problem and compromise with the nobility really isn't that relevant. We do want to get our tax modifiers up right here. That's why I recommend curtail noble privileges. Later on in the game, of course, you could be swapping over to something else, but there's really no need, and you can just stick with this for the entirety of the campaign. So for your tier 2 government reform, curtail noble privileges. Once you've pretty much made sure that you're gonna get Hungary as a junior partner, or if you've already gotten them as your junior partner, it is time to start focusing on some of these guys down here if they're still alive. For example, in my game, they look pretty much about the same, like in 1444. So what you're gonna do with these guys is pretty much spy on whoever is located here, Bosnia or Serbia or whoever you want to, and our goal in this war versus them is to sort of surround them. In my game, for example, I'm gonna take these 4 provinces right here, leave them alive in these 3 provinces. I'm probably going to do something similar to Bosnia, surround them so no one else can fight them, and then later, once we pass our 3rd imperial reform right here, we'll be able to force them into the HRE, which is something that we do want to do. Even if you haven't gotten Hungary as a junior partner, or if you're not going to get them, basically if you're waiting to fight a war versus them, you can still go ahead and fight these guys in the meantime while you're waiting for your truce with Hungary to expire so you can fight. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. You should be doing the same. Spy on whoever is located down here so you can fight them and sort of surround them. When you get the Imperial Incident, the Teutonic Order, and the Empire, where basically the Teutons ask us if they can join the Empire, the option that you want to go with is the second one right here. Allow the Order to join, but put heavy regulations on them. Then we'll let them join, but they won't be able to declare wars and some other things like that. This is the one you want to go with specifically for the Imperial authority gain and for the fact that every prince in the Empire won't be mad at us. Don't go with these 2 other options. The second one is the one you want to go with. Now that I've spied on Serbia, I'm going to go ahead and declare on them. I'll co-belligerent Bosnia as well. And like I explained earlier, we're going to aim to sort of surround these nations to sort of protect them from the Ottomans and so we can force them in the HRE later on. I am going to call in Hungary for this because they're still independent and I want me and Hungary to have the same truce with them. So basically, I don't end up fighting them and then Hungary ends up full annexing them. And now that this war is done, what I'm gonna do is do this peace deal right here, basically take these provinces to protect Bosnia from Ragusa right here, and then take these 4 provinces to protect Serbia from the Ottomans, and they'll stay alive right here in these provinces and in these provinces as well. Something else we can do right here is force religion on Serbia because they are Orthodox. We do want to force them to be Catholic so they can join the HRE later on. So there we go. That's sort of what your wars versus some of these guys down here should look like. Surround them and protect them from being declared on by anyone else. And there we go. If you did the same war that I did, you've also acquired another gold mine down here. At this point, I can also pass my first imperial reform. I am wasting 14.8 imperial authority right here because of that imperial incident with the Teutons, but it's no big deal. Remember, no matter how much imperial authority you have, you always need 50, and if it's more than 50, the rest of it will get wasted. But there we go. There's your first imperial reform passed. You should be able to do it about 10 or 15 years after the game starts. And once your original emperor Frederick right here turns 44, you will be able to abdicate with him, which is something that you do want to do. Obviously, if this guy died earlier and if you had a regent or something, you already have Ladislaus on your throne, but as soon as you are able to abdicate with Frederick right here, you should go ahead and do it, because that will give us imperial authority, and we pretty much want to abdicate with every single ruler that we have whenever we can. But before you abdicate, and this goes for whatever ruler you have, the first thing you want to make sure is that all of your subjects are loyal, basically that they won't break free. I'm talking about your junior partners after you abdicate. That's excellent. Everything is good with Bohemia. And the second thing you want to check right here is that you will get re-elected HRE Emperor if you abdicate. In my game right here, we can see that 5 people are voting for me, including myself. Trier and Saxony aren't, but no big deal. I'll still get re-elected. So if your subjects won't break free, and if you will get re-elected, it is time to abdicate. And just like that, you're gonna go ahead and abdicate, and there we go. Ladislaus Posthumus has ascended the throne, and Hungary obviously has accepted to be our junior partner. We gain imperial authority, and that's pretty much what you want to do every time once you are able to abdicate. And just like that, also the house divided privilege goes away from the nobles. It was literally no big deal. At this point, I am gonna go ahead and take the mission, Decline of Hungary. You are gonna do this either way, whether you PU them through force or through this event that we got right here, and there we go. Just like that, Hungary will become, or already is, our junior partner. After you've PU'd Hungary though, or started conquering them for some reason, you will also be able to take the mission Royal Hungary, where if we PU'd them, which obviously you will have, we will make them the new sort of semi-unique subject type, an incorporated personal union, which obviously will make it easier for us to annex them and so on, even though there are some problems that come later on if we do end up annexing Hungary, such as the autonomy here being super high, the disaster in the age of absolutism, which will enable us to form Austria-Hungary and whatnot, but that doesn't matter for now. When you can take this mission after you've PU'd Hungary, definitely go ahead and do it. And there we go, just like that, now they're an incorporated personal union. Another mission you're going to want to take is Secure Croatia right here, where we gain some manpower and the center of trade there is increased to level 2. If you ended up getting Hungary as a junior partner through the event, it should happen between 1455 and 1460. If you ended up PUing these guys through war, it should be between 1460 and 1465. So even if you end up fighting these guys, unlike me, who I just got them, you're still not gonna, waste too much time or anything like that. So don't worry about being slower or faster or something like that. Once a rival slot frees itself up, you should definitely go ahead and rival France. This is because we want to have France rivaled and we want to have Castile rival France, and that basically makes us, the both of us right here, eligible for that event, where we can put a Habsburg on the Castilian throne. Something we do want to happen, whether through that event or through request a relative as an heir, because just like I mentioned up here earlier, we do want that to happen for us to PU them as well for free. And this is something you should always pay attention to. Like I mentioned at the start, never accept a royal marriage offer from Burgundy. Always send one yourself. Of course, whenever your estates are above 50 loyalty, make sure to seize land. This is my second time doing this. And there we go, just like that, the Burgundian succession has also happened, and obviously Burgundy has chosen me to be their overlord. They will choose you 99% of the time, and that is perfect. Usually it doesn't happen this early around the 1460s. In my experience, it happens around the 1480s, but no matter, you'll still end up getting them as your junior partner. And there we go, that's perfect. Now, obviously, after you get Burgundy, the imperial incident, the Burgundian inheritance will trigger, where we have a couple of options. Basically, make concessions to France and give everything that's in the region of France over to France, everything that Burgundy owns, or we can make them release guys in the HRE, or we can obviously choose our union with Burgundy. Now, this is the option we want to go with right here based on the prince support. Obviously, we'll gain imperial authority using this. We don't want to lose any imperial authority by choosing any other option. So definitely stick with this first option, keep our union with Burgundy. Additionally, after you get Burgundy, you'll finally be able to take one of the first missions as well, reclaim Burgundy right here, where we gain some imperial authority in a permaclaim on the Low Countries, and this event happens. Basically, the event, the lands of Lothair right right here tells us that if we choose this first option right here, we'll gain +1 Diplo rep and -5% Diplo annex cost for 10 years, but we'll also no longer be able to inherit Burgundy via that horse event, the Duchess of Burgundy dies or whatever. And then you can choose the second option right here where you gain 100 admin points, our ruler gets 1 admin skill, and everything over 6 will be converted into 100 admin points. Now, this is totally up to you whether you actually want to end up inheriting the Burgundy lands or not, or if you want to keep them around as a junior partner. Both are pretty valid options. Burgundy is a very, very helpful subject, but then again, the lands that they own are super, super rich, and it will definitely help us out with the economic game in the early portion of the game quite a lot. Additionally, by ending up inheriting these guys, we also gain a border with France, an important nation that we want to fight quite a lot pretty soon. So I slightly more recommend choosing the second option right here. Their lands belong to us, although you definitely won't make a mistake by going with this right here either. Either way, this is the one I'm gonna go for. Now, around this time, the early 1460s, pretty much 1460 exactly, you will gain the Shadow Kingdom event as well, which is a pretty important part of the early game gameplay as Austria right here. There we go, just like that, the Shadow Kingdom Imperial Incident will become active, and we pretty much have two choices. The first one is it's time to abandon Italy, we lose prestige, we lose 20 Imperial authority, and pretty much most of the nations over in Italy will end up leaving the HRE. This is what happens in pretty much every AI game, but in our game right here, we actually want to go with the option we must rein in the Italians. Then we'll have until 1490 to rein in as many of the Italian guys as possible, and basically to prevent them from leaving the HRE. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So we're going to go ahead and choose this second option right here, and we're going to wait a year for this Imperial Incident to play out, and after that we're going to start reining in the Italians, and basically we need to go ahead and take this mission right here. Obviously, I'll tell you what to do as soon as we have the option to do it. At a certain point in the game, you'll also gain the event the Milanese Succession, where we can gain a subjugation or restoration of Union CB on Milan. There's totally no need to do this. Since we'll keep Milan in the HRE, they'll end up being our vassal later anyway, so there's no need to vassalize them or PU them now. Don't get the aggressive expansion for no reason. Simply choose the second option. We have no interest in Milan. And there we go, a year passed since we chose that option in the Shadow Kingdom event, and now we can finally start reining in the Italians. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is take a look at this mission right here, Italian Ambition, which we will be able to do after that Imperial Incident is active. And basically, if we chose to do this mission via the sort of diplomatic path, so to say, basically by doing the Shadow Kingdom Imperial Incident, we will gain an event, and the event is called Bring Light to the Shadows. If you alternatively choose to do it in a different way, the Conquest route, and I recommend focusing on the Conquest routes if you're doing the whole Conquest gameplay and not this one that we're doing. Either way, you can go ahead and take this mission, and the option that I recommend you choose is a peaceful approach will be best, where we gain 50 opinion with all the Imperial princes over in Italy. Do not go with the second option right here. Let's remind them why we're crowned emperors. We do not want to subjugate these guys. We want to keep them in the HRE diplomatic. So after you choose this option right here, a peaceful approach will be best. So here's what you need to do. You need to improve relations, ally, royal marry, guarantee, send gifts, do anything you can with all of these nations that are listed right here. In my game, it's Genoa, Milan, Savoy, Siena, Lucca, Florence, Bologna, and Saluzzo, pretty much all of the nations over in Italy. There's always a way to be able to ally all of these guys. There's always a sequence. So let's say, for example, right here, Savoy and Genoa are rivaled, right? Which would make it difficult for me to ally both of these guys. But trust me, there's always a sequence in which you can get all of these guys. Whether that's allying one guy and then royal marrying him, guaranteeing them, then breaking the alliance so you can ally someone else, then not royal marrying these guys, allying the other guys that you broke the alliance with already, then re-allying these guys, re-royal marrying them. There's always a way to do this. So after you have the option to actually do that, it's time to actually do it. So go ahead and get good relations with all of these guys on this list right here that will enable you to take the decision reign in Italy. There we go. As we can see, I've allied pretty much everyone over in Italy. The only nation that's remaining is Siena right here, but already Ferrara is threatening to break the alliance with me. So there's got to be a different sequence for me to be able to do this. As we can see, Siena doesn't want to ally me because I'm allied to some of their rivals. So maybe we can break our alliance with Bologna, ally Siena, re-ally Bologna. Maybe we'll have to get in a royal marriage or two or something like that, but there's always a way to do this. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's see right here, break my alliance with some of these guys. guys, try and ally Siena. There's always a way to do it. As you can see, for example, right now, Lucca is the one that's left, and I still have the same problem with them. So what I'm gonna do right here, for example, is break my alliance with Ferrara to be able to ally Lucca, and then I think I will be able to re-ally Ferrara. It's complicated, but it can always be done. And there we go. After a little bit of shenanigans, sending gifts, sending scornful insults to some of their rivals, I have managed to be allied to all of the Italian guys at the same time, even though, as we can see, Ferrara and Siena are already threatening to break that alliance with me. I did have to get a couple of royal marriages in as well, sending gifts, scornful insults, guarantees, and stuff like that, but it's always possible, just like I told you earlier. So after you've done all of that with all of these guys, and by the way, it can also be done by defeating them in a war, it's just that this is the easier way and the quicker way, then you're going to be able to take the decision, reign in Italy, and just like that, Italy has been returned to the fold. Long live the empire, and we gain a bunch of imperial authority. And at this point, you should be able to pass your second imperial reform, institute Reichsregiment right here, another very good one. For this first one, all the empire provinces got a local construction and death discount of 5%, and for this one, we're going to get a diplomat, additional diplo rep, and every province in the empire will get -2 local unrest. So a very good reform, just like that. I'm also going to add all the provinces that I conquered in the empire. At this point, you can totally go ahead and break the alliance with everyone that you allied right here. You don't need them anymore. Obviously, we're going to have royal marriages with some of these guys, but that's just something we're going to have to suffer with because that's helped us accomplish our goal. After you've reigned in the Italians, here's what you're going to do. You're going to focus on other areas of expansion, and those other areas of expansion are pretty much Poland right here, where if they didn't get Lithuania, you are going to be PUing them at this point in the game, and if they did get Lithuania, you're going to be conquering stuff from them so you can PU them later on. And another area of expansion at this point is also France. If you've already gotten the Burgundian succession, basically we're going to be able to dismantle France, make a bunch of nations pop out from them and stuff like that, so we can force them into the HRE later on. But I think you should be doing that after you've already taken your third imperial reform, because by the time we get to force those guys in the HRE, well, France might have already conquered them back. So that's why after reigning in the Italians, I think the prime target for attack is Poland right here. Now, if Poland didn't get Lithuania, like I said, now is when you're going to take this mission, now is when you're going to get the restoration of Union CB on Poland, and now is when you're going to PU them. But in my game right here, because they did get Lithuania, they are too large for us to be able to get that CB. As we can see, if we take this mission, we only gain permaclaims on Poland, so that's why we're not going to be doing that. Instead, what I recommend doing is just setting a bunch of provinces of interest right here on the border with Poland that your subjects have and stuff like that. Pretty much something like this. So Bohemia and Hungary and whatnot can go ahead and spy on Poland for you. Maybe they even already have claims. In fact, they do, as we can see right here. Both Bohemia and Hungary already have a bunch of claims, so we're definitely good to go ahead and declare. So if Poland also got Lithuania in your game, now it's time to fight them and take some provinces from them, just like we did in the previous patch where we took a bunch of land here. Around this point, when you get Admin Tech 5, and don't worry if you're a bit slower, as Austria, we're using points on different things at the start of the game, it will be time for your first idea group. And for your first idea group as Austria, obviously, you're going to be going with diplomatic ideas. You might think influence is pretty relevant as well because we're going to be playing with so much subjects, and yes, you're right, but we're going to take more advantage of Diplo the earlier we get it. The diplomats are great, the Diplo rep is great for getting allies, PUs, annexing them faster, and obviously the diplomat advisor bonuses are great. Province war score cost will enable us to take more, and this lowered impact on stability from diplomatic actions will enable us to rack up a couple of more PUs. So definitely diplomatic ideas for your first idea group in this Austria World Conquest One Faith playthrough. We're already focusing on dip. And like I said, once you've reigned in the Italians, it is time to move on by fighting Poland. I'm going to declare specifically for this province right there, even though it's a Bohemian claim, and I'm going to call in everyone that I can. When you have Bohemia and Hungary, you're already powerful enough to take on Poland, just the three of you guys. But if you have Burgundy or a couple of more allies or subjects, it's always a great bonus. But after you've gotten Bohemia and Hungary, it's easy to take down Poland. And there we go. And once you go ahead and defeat Poland and presumably Lithuania and all of their other subjects, here's what you're gonna do. Our goal in these wars versus Poland is to take some provinces for ourselves, but also weaken them in areas that we're gonna end up owning either way. And for example, this is what I'm talking about. Let's say we take some provinces over here, but also we make Danzig give a bunch of cores back over to the Teutonic Order. That's because the Teutons have joined the HRE in my game, right? So they're gonna end up being my subject, my vassal later on anyway. anyway. So why get more stuff for us now, waste admin points, waste diplo points, get aggressive expansion when you can just get it for free later on? So that's exactly what I'm talking about. We're gonna click right here and make all of these cores go back to the Teutons just like that. So we're gonna end up owning that for free. And then what we can do is take some provinces for ourselves over here just like that. In the next war, we'll do the same. Make them give some provinces back to someone else, maybe to the Livonians or something like that, maybe more provinces back to Danzig, or maybe we'll steal Moldavia as our vassal or get some more provinces for ourselves. That's pretty much what we do in these 1 to 3 wars versus Poland, where we're shrinking them enough to where we can make them our junior partner. And in my game, there's the horse event, the Duchess of Burgundy dies, and it's just like that, I end up inheriting all of the Burgundian lands. Now, you should be able to go ahead and state that up. GovCap shouldn't be a problem at this point, but still, be careful. At a certain point, you will also be able to take the mission A Balance of Power, which gives us improved relations and Diplo rep, and the Diplo advisor at every level will give us -2% aggressive expansion, which is actually way stronger than you think. So that incentivizes us to get higher level dip advisors earlier. And pretty much the way to check the development of Poland is not looking at this number right here, but adding up those two numbers down there. So its own development, that's pretty much Poland's dev right there, 210, and then half of subjects development, 172. So really, the development we're looking at right here that we need to get below 400 is 210 plus 172 plus 172, because obviously it's half of subjects development. So that would be right there, that Poland and their subjects have 554 dev. So we want to make these guys lose about 160 more dev. Pretty much Poland, Lithuania, Moldavia, and Danzig right here. And we'll be doing that in our next war. For your first stage ability, I recommend taking Justified Wars. And there we go, just like that in my game, Spain did end up getting a Habsburg as their heir as soon as the Iberian wedding over here happened. And that's excellent. That's already one part, probably the biggest part of this mission, where we get the PU Castile/Spain for free already done. Now let me explain this again. Pretty much we need to have a Habsburg ruling Castile, so after King Enrique right here dies and after this other Enrique ascends the throne, then we need to have 100 legitimacy, which really isn't going to be a problem if we just strengthen government a couple of times. And then that's pretty much it. After that, we'll be able to take this mission, but only take this mission after you gain 80 trust with them, and after they have 190 opinion of us, and after we have 4 Diplo rep. That's how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna show it to you because it is gonna happen relatively quickly right here, but more on that later. Once you've dealt with Poland in one war, and maybe if you've already ended up inheriting Burgundy, you should go ahead and start spying on France. If Burgundy is still here, and if you've gotten them as a junior partner, obviously. If you don't have them as a junior partner, you're not going to be doing this, so only do it after you've gotten them. You're going to start working on spying on France and getting to fight them as well. We're pretty much going to dismantle them, make them release as many nations as we can to force those guys over in the HRE. You may notice that from this mission right here, weaken France, we gain these bonuses, and then once we own a bunch of provinces over in France, we can do various options right here where every own province in France will be automatically split into numerous nations and added into the HRE, or we can do some other options right there, but don't read into this too much. It's still pretty much the same thing that we've been doing in previous patches. Obviously, after you've taken this province down here, if you have at all, you're going to want to dev this gold mine up to 10 as well. If you didn't take it in that initial war where we're surrounding these guys, you're going to take it later on anyway when we fight the Ottomans. Now that I have a claim over on France, I'm going to be declaring on them, and the goal in these wars versus France is to make them pop out as many nations as they can, nations that pretty much border us and border the HRE, so later once we pass our third imperial reform, we'll be able to force all of those guys over in the HRE. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. I'm just declaring a regular conquest right here. I'm going to call in everyone that's willing to come in, and there we go. With all of these junior partners by our side, these wars should be easy enough. Something I actually forgot to mention and forgot to do in my game is that you actually want to secure an alliance with England as soon as the surrender of Main War is over. That's because we sort of aim to PU England later on as well, / Great Britain, because they are a colonizer just like Castile, and we hopefully want to have them stay Catholic so we have less of the New World to convert later on. That's something I forgot to do and didn't mention in my game, but after the surrender of Main War ends, definitely make sure to secure an alliance with England. I'm going to get a royal marriage right now and ally them as soon as this war is over. For your tier 3 government reform, obviously you're going to want to go with representatives of the crown. This gives vassals and marches 25% more national tax, and we also gain +1 diplo relations, plus 25% vassal fourth limit contribution, and that tributary thing obviously is not relevant to our gameplay. It's not that powerful right now since we don't actually have vassals and marches, but just think about it. What happens when you get all of the HRE guys as your vassals. Obviously, it's a no-brainer, so for your tier 3 government reform, representatives of the crown. And once you've beaten up France, you're going to go into this tab right here, the release nations tab, and you're going to make them pop out nations that are right next to the HRE. So not someone like Alençon that's down here, for example, not someone like, I don't know, Toulouse, just not yet, at least, but maybe you could do someone like Berry. There we go, we border the HRE with Berry. Bourbon as well, that's over here. Champagne, for example, up here. Dauphine down here, and that's perfect. Let's see, Auvergne right here. Auvergne borders pretty much Berry right here, or Bourbon, whoever that is. So that's perfect. Do something like this. And there we go. That's everything you're gonna do in your wars versus France. Over here pretty soon, once we get this imperial reform, we'll be able to force all of these guys in the HRE, which is exactly what we want to do. Make sure to remove your guarantee over them as well, so you can fight them as soon as possible. After you do one war versus France, you should be able to take the mission Weaken France, where we gain a perma-claim on the region of France, along with power projection, morale of armies, and province war score cost. What I'm gonna do right now is ally the Teutonic Order. The only reason for this is so I can call them into the war versus Poland later to give them the province of Danzig, because otherwise I can't, since it is Danzig's capital. That's the only reason. Obviously at this point money isn't a problem anymore with this much land and gold mines, and we're not only expanding at this point and POing and vassalizing and dismantling nations. Make sure to focus on your economy as well. Build those marketplaces in the center of trade provinces, build the workshops in the high value trade good provinces, build the churches and provinces that give you more than 0.1 ducats in profit. When you get admin tax 7, it will also be time for your second idea group, and obviously since this is a World Conquest One Faith playthrough, for your second idea group I recommend none other than religious ideas. Super powerful for a playthrough like this. The additional missionaries, the manpower in True Faith provinces is pretty much plus 10% national manpower, the missionary strength, the tolerance of the True Faith, this awesome CB right at the end. Everything about religious is just excellent, and it is a must, just like Diplo, for this type of playthrough. For your second age ability, I recommend taking Transfer Subject and Claims Bordering Claims. This will come in very handy later on, and I'll explain more about that later. And there we go. Now I've just gotten 50 Imperial Authority, which means I can take the third Imperial Reform right here. It gives us minus 25% state maintenance, but more importantly, it gives us the CB on non-members bordering the Empire to force them to join the Empire, and this is one of the most important things that we were gunning for in the early portion of the game right here. And there we go, just like that. After this, we will have the CB on pretty much all of these guys right here to force them into the HRE, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. And pretty much as soon as we have that CB active, you're going to start utilizing it. The thing we're doing right now, all the way up until the Reformation spawns, is we're forcing nations into the HRE while working on shrinking Poland to PU them, working on dismantling France so we can force more nations in, and after we get Poland, we're going to be hitting the Ottomans. But in the meantime, there's no peacetime. We're just forcing all of the tiny guys in the HRE. So right now, because I'm still waiting for my truce with Poland right here to expire, which is going to happen in about 3 years, it's time for me to force nations in the HRE until then. And the first nation that I'm going to do that on is, let's say right here, Serbia, for example. They're only allied to Bosnia. So there we go. There's the Expand Empire CB, and we're going to force these guys in the HRE. We're doing this to all Catholic nations that are eligible. Keep in mind that even if you co-belligerent their allies, you can't force those guys into the HRE either. So no matter if I co-belligerent or don't co-belligerent Bosnia here, I can't force them into the HRE. So any other allies of the nation you're forcing in that you want to force in as well, just white piece them and do it on them later. So there's my first declaration on Serbia. Later, we'll do it on Ragusa, some of these small guys right here, all while we're waiting for our truce with Poland to expire. Then, once we fight Poland, we're gonna do it on these French guys, and so on and so forth. And there we go, this war is done. I'm fighting Padua for some reason. I think the Palatinate inherited that war or something like that. Either way, no big deal. Once you beat up whoever that's small that you're fighting to force into the Empire, you're just gonna select this option right here. No need for money or war apps. You want these guys to like you. And there we go. That's that. And now Serbia is in the HRE as well. And just like that, we got a little bit of imperial authority. Let's do Ragusa, for example, because they're not being guaranteed by the Ottomans. There we go. They're allied to Naples, but it's really no big deal. Now that we're done with Ragusa as well, I'm also going to force them into the HRE just like that, and there we go. There's 3 more Imperial Authority. Now, you might not think that's a lot, but every little bit counts, and also, these guys are all gonna be our subjects later on. So imagine it like force vassalizing someone, except, you know, we'll take advantage of it later, and we don't gain any aggressive expansion. There we go. We're done with these 2 guys. Let's see who can be next on our chopping block. How about Aquileia? There we go, simple as that. At this point, burger loans are huge. I've just gotten cannons, so I am upgrading these armies over here, and obviously I'm continuing with construction as well, primarily of workshops in high-value trade good provinces. Trade goods that cost more than 2 ducats. And there we go, we're forcing Friuli in the empire as well. Once you've forced a couple of those guys over in the HRE, your truce with whoever you're waiting your truce to expire with has probably expired, in which case it's time to fight them again. Those nations right now are most likely Poland and France, and maybe Denmark, although we'll get to Denmark pretty soon as well. And because my truce with Poland is up and have actually allied the Great Horde, which makes them a little bit more annoying now, it is time to fight them again, once again with just a regular conquest. In my game, they have about 565 dev total based on these calculations right here, so I do need to chop them down quite a lot. Let's see if this is the only other war I have to do with them before I PU them, or will I need an additional war where I dismantle them. I'm gonna call in the Teutons, like I said earlier, just to give them Danzig. After that, I'm gonna break my lance with them, and there we go. Let's call in a couple of other small guys as well. Over here, we're doing the same thing again, taking a little bit from us while also giving someone else that's gonna be our subject in the future some of their provinces back, or something like that. So in this war, we're gonna give this back to the Teutons, maybe make Lithuania release the Livonians up here, maybe give some cores back to Wallachia. We'll see. Keep an eye on this event right here, and always choose this first option right here. That's an additional Diplo rep for free, and a minus 5% idea discount, which is absolutely huge, by the way, until the end of the game. And now that my war with Poland is done, in this second one, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make them give these provinces back to Wallachia, this province back to the Teutons, and I'm gonna take these 5 provinces myself. And there we go. There's my second war with Poland done. Sort of similar what we were doing in the previous patches, but not really, since now we're additionally feeding other guys as well that are going to be our future subjects. Let's take a look right now. Have I surpassed the Poles? And in my game, it seems that I still haven't surpassed them. Let's check and see on the Great Power list. And according to my calculations right here, they're at a total of 474 dev right now, them and their subjects. So I'll definitely need one more war versus Poland later on, where I guess I'll take these 2 provinces or something like that and make them release Moldavia. No big deal. Pretty similar to the last patch, but I do think it's a little more dynamic like this. Now that we're done with all that, there literally is no time to chill. Simply, while waiting for our truces with France and Poland to expire, the big boys, before we move on to the Ottomans, we're forcing small guys into the HRE once again. Now I'm gonna go ahead and declare on Bosnia, expand empire. It's as simple as that. And there we go, we can force Bosnia into the HRE as well, and there's an additional 2 imperial authority. Let's continue on with the same thing by declaring on Padua right here to force them into the HRE as soon as I send them a scornful insult because I have good relations. And now that we're done with Padua, we're also gonna force them into the HRE too. Now, as we can see in my game right here, Poland and Lithuania are sort of getting ganked by the Ottomans and by Muscovy and Sweden right here, which really is no big deal. This is something that you can expect to happen to them, or even to Hungary if you're planning on PUing them through war once you break your alliance with them. Poland or the Ottomans could declare on them, but it's literally no big deal. It just makes it easier for us. If Hungary got a little bit beat up before we PU'd them, that's fine. We can just reconquer their cores. And same goes for Poland. We'll have to do one less war versus them now, so pretty much our next war will be to PU them, and it's going to be super simple because we're just going to reconquer their cores, or Lithuania's cores, from the Ottomans or Muscovy. So it's no big deal even if the nations you want to PU get beat up a little. After forcing all of those guys in the HRE, around this point in the game, the early 1490s, I'm able to pass the 4th Imperial Reform, enact the Gaiman Fenning, which gives us a boost to our yearly tax income, and all of the guys in the HRE get +1 Diplo rep. After we get this one, these other ones don't interest that too much until we start enacting the centralization reforms. So whenever you can, definitely go ahead and pass these. And speaking of forcing guys into the HRE, after we forced a bunch of these guys, it's time to focus on something else, getting provinces that are imperial but outside of the HRE back into the HRE, and that's most likely going to be these provinces that Denmark has right here that Holstein starts off with. Now, over here, when we fight Denmark right now, we actually don't want to get Holstein released right here as a nation of the empire, even though we want as many nations in the empire as we can. We actually want to take these 2 provinces for ourselves because this is going to be our foothold for expansion over into the region of Scandinavia. So it's time to go ahead and fight Denmark. Just declare whatever, either imperial ban or imperial campaign, and in this first war we're going to take these provinces for ourselves, and then in the next war we're going to be stealing Norway and maybe even Sweden. If they still have them as junior partners, we're going to have them transferred over to us as vassals thanks to this right here. So now I'm simply going to go ahead and declare on Denmark. I'm going to do this one right here since I'm not sure if we can get to their capital, and I am going to call in all of these guys because I want to maximize the chance that we actually do get the land in Copenhagen. And there we go. The only goal in this war really is to get these 2 provinces. For your tier 4 government reform, obviously you're gonna go with lanes for the church. We're gonna be staying Catholic the entire campaign. We're doing a one faith, and this is absolutely insane for our opinion with the Pope, getting all of those papal bonuses right there, and the Curia treasury contribution, Curia powers cost, papal influence from cardinals. All of that is absolutely excellent. So lanes for the church is a must for your tier 4 government reform. Really, all of these right here are mandatory so far, the 3 and 4, except for the second one. You can play around with this one a little bit. And there we go, the war with Denmark right here is pretty much done. So what I'm going to do is get these 2 provinces right here, but also let's check. We actually can already make Norway our vassal in this war as well, so that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these 2 imperial provinces for myself, Norway as my vassal, and then let's go ahead and get war reps and all of Denmark's money, and we will continue to conquer them later on. But for now, that's done. Right now, I can also notice they can finally abdicate with our second ruler right here, Ladislas Posthumus. That is something we want to do, so definitely go ahead and do it. As always, first check if all of your guys like you. Yes, they do, and this is only for the junior partners, by the way, not the vassals. Don't worry about the vassals. Then check if you will get re-elected. Let's see in my game. Yes, I will definitely get re-elected. So there we go. It is time to abdicate with Ladislas and get this other guy in charge. And there we go. That's some more imperial authority. Now that that's all done, it is time to continue forcing other nations in the HRE. Let's do it on Dauphine, for example. And there we go, there's Dauphine in the Empire as well. I seem to have had good enough relations with Champagne to where they joined on their own, so that's perfect. I don't have to fight them. And unfortunately, France did end up eating 2 of these guys that we released right here, but that's okay. That's completely normal, something that definitely can happen. But right now, while waiting for my truce with Poland to expire, I'm still continuing with doing this. So there we go. There's a war versus Auvergne. Expand Empire. And versus Venice as well, because apparently we can do that. So there we go. There we go, there's Auvergne in. Now, this is a very important event that can happen to you from 1460 to 1500 while you have no heir, and that's basically to get Maximilian I von Habsburg as a scripted 555 ruler, which is super powerful. Now, of course, you could disinherit a bunch of heirs until you get them, because the chance that you get this event is pretty high, but of course you'll be losing prestige and stuff like that, so you figure out if it's worth it, because we will end up abdicating with this guy too anyway. But there we go. In my game, luckily I got him, and there he is. He is the new heir, a pretty important ruler historically. He already starts off with the Last Knight unique trait, which gives him plus 10% cavalry combat ability and plus 50% army tradition from battles. Super powerful. Always go with that first option right there. And there we go. There's Maximilian von Habsburg. And now that we're done with Venice, we can force them into the empire as well. And there we go. There's a bunch of additional imperial authority. And just like that, there's the perpetual diet reform passed, where we gain plus 50% more imperial authority growth from free cities, just like that. And that enables us pretty soon to go down the decentralization and centralization paths of the HRE. Basically, after you take this, you can either go for this, or this next. Obviously, we're not going decentralization. We're gunning for this super hard. So after we pass Revoke the Privilege, we'll wrap it up with these 2 other ones right there. But another pretty important imperial reform. Now, at this point, some of you may be noticing that I haven't gotten the Pope in the HRE just yet, and some of you may not have gotten him in the HRE yet as well, and you may be asking yourself, what's up with that? Well, the thing is that imperial incident or the event for the Pope can't trigger if the Pope has 10 or more provinces, and in my game right here, if we take a look at the Pope, we can notice that he has 11 provinces. So the best way to do this, the best way to make him get rid of those provinces without declaring on the Pope yourself directly, not something you want to do, by the way, because we want to have such good relations with them, just declare on any papal ally. In my game right here, there's Trent. We already have a claim on Trent from an event earlier on, so there we go. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. Let's see if actually someone is easier to fight than Trent, and no, it doesn't look like it, so I'll be declaring on Trent. The main goal in this war is not to conquer Trent, but to make the Pope release Provence from here, so we got another member in the HRE from here, and also the Pope will be eligible to join after that as well. So there we go. That's exactly what we're gonna be doing. And now that we're done with this war, I'm just gonna make the Pope release these guys, since Provence is too much war score. As we can see, it's not possible. It's 102 war score. So we're just gonna go ahead and do this right here. That shrinks them below 10 provinces, and all of these other guys we can also force into the HRE, which is absolutely perfect, and the Pope won't hate us because this is not a war directly versus him, and we can very easily re-ally him after this war is done. And because I have no further goals in this war, I'm simply gonna white peace Trent. And just like that, I re-allied the Pope, and the imperial incident started immediately because the Pope shrunk under 10 provinces. Obviously, we want to choose this first option right here. The Pope will join the Empire. That's going to be very nice for us. All of the imperial guys, we're going to get absolutely amazing bonuses now that the Pope is in the HRE, and obviously we gain some additional imperial authority. and it is pretty important that we do it for a certain mission up here. And there we go, just like that, the Pope has joined the Empire, which, like I said earlier, is excellent for all the member states. We've also enlarged the Empire, which is very nice, and right now I'm just helping out Castile in some war versus Naples, so that's not too relevant at all. However, after the Pope, or, well, whoever owns Rome, which is 99% of the time going to be the Pope, and enters the HRE, you are going to be able to take this mission right here, a Roman Empire, which gives the clergy privilege religious diplomats an additional 10 opinion of the same religious countries, and we also gain this insanely powerful modifier for our one faith playthrough, a plus 2% missionary strength until the end of the game, with a very important 0.05 Imperial Authority growth modifier as well. Super important mission. The earlier you do it, the better. I just forgot to do it because I didn't actually notice that the Pope had more than 10 provinces. Either way, because we're doing the dismantling of France in the way that we're doing it, basically releasing nations from them and forcing them in the HRE, once you get enough of those guys in the HRE, and in my case it's because of the Pope right here, you will also be able to take the mission Defeat the French, and in our playthrough right here, we're doing it in the second way, where we basically gain 10 Imperial Authority and our ruler gets 1 Diplo skill, which is very nice. The alternative way would be pretty much to release all of these nations that are located in our provinces and France over in the HRE. So there's no point in doing that. That's why we're doing this the second way. And there we go. Once you do that, there's some more Imperial Authority and these bonuses down here. Now that my truce with Poland is finally up, it's finally time to declare on them and PU them and Lithuania, or maybe in your case it's just Poland. And if it was just Poland, you probably did it earlier. However, I have to let you know about something. It's a little bug I've discovered right here, and I don't know exactly in which way it's a bug. As you can see right here, the whole thing we've been doing so far is trying to get Poland and their subjects below 400 development in order to get the restoration of Union CB on them. And as you can see, there is a green check mark right there, which means that we will get the restoration of Union CB on Poland. However, if I go ahead and take this mission right here, I do not actually get a restoration of Union CB on Poland. And this is the bug right here. And this is how it works. Either this hasn't been changed to the initial 300 development requirement, and the only thing that's changed is the wording right here for 400, or it has been changed to 400 officially, but the devs maybe just forgot to change it to 400 and the requirement is still 300. So I think that's the bug right there. The requirement is not actually 400 but 300. I hope this is going to be fixed. I have let the devs know that this is a bug and stuff like that, but hopefully by the time you guys get to play this, the requirement is actually 400 instead of 300, because let's be real, if the requirement is actually 300, then there was no point in doing any of this that we've been doing so far. And if this doesn't get fixed, or if it gets changed back to 300, what I recommend is that you just conquer Poland and dismantle Lithuania, release all the Ruthenian releasables from them, convert them to Catholic, and then force them into the HRE like we're doing with these guys over here, because let's face it, 300 is way too low, and that would mean that this mission is just botched, and I don't agree with it. So there you go, letting you guys know about this bug. Hopefully this isn't like that by the time you get to play it. Apologies that you're seeing it in the video like this. So I'm gonna assume that this is a bug, and what I'm gonna do is just use the console right here to give myself the restoration of Union CB on Poland. But once again, let me reiterate that if it is actually 300 and not 400 like it says right here, then you shouldn't be doing this. Instead, you should just conquer Poland and release all the guys and force them into the HRE from Lithuania. There we go. As we can see, I've added the Restore Personal Union CB on Poland using the console. Obviously, you guys won't have to do this, but there we go. There's my declaration to finally PU Poland. I'm going to call in some of these guys to make it a little bit easier. Now, something else you can do after you take the mission is surpass the Poles, and if you've conquered provinces in Poland yourself, or after you've PU'd Poland, it doesn't really matter, you will be able to take the mission Conquer Galicia right here, where the event Founding a New Empire happens. And as we can see, the options for this event are: the first option, we will not be able to form Austria-Hungary, and the way you form Austria-Hungary later on is a disaster during the Age of Absolutism. Now, you can play as Austria-Hungary if you want to, it's definitely a great option, but I think for our world conquest one faith right here, we need to try and avoid that and just remain Austria until the end of the game. And as we can see, our name also changes to Austrian Empire, and we gain plus 10% manpower in primary culture provinces and plus 10% manpower in same culture group provinces, which are all the Germanic ones, obviously. Then the second option right there is we unlock the Melting Pot of Cultures Nobles privilege, where Hungarian and Transylvanian cultural provinces will give us plus 15% local manpower. And also West Slavic cultured provinces, pretty much all of these guys right here from Bohemia and Poland and stuff like that, will get plus 15% local production efficiency, and provinces that do not meet those requirements will gain plus 25% local tax. Now, both of these options are really good right here, and honestly, you can go with whichever one you want to, but for the purposes of this campaign, I do think this is the better option. If you want to form Austria-Hungary later on, then you should go with this right here. But there we go, we are now the Austrian Empire. Pretty cool name change. And just like with any forced PU war, once you get about 60% war score, you're good to go ahead and peace out. And just like that, if you're PUing Poland, select the Union with Poland option right here and take as much money as you can. And there we go. That's that war done. And you've PU'd Poland and potentially a couple of their subjects. After that, if you had PU'd them, you will be able to take the mission King of Poland right here, where as we can see, if this mission was accomplished through subjugation, basically PUing them, we unlock a certain mercenary company, which is excellent, and we gain some army tradition. However, if we conquer Poland, basically if you don't want to PU them, if you just conquer them, like the other option that I mentioned, you gain Polish as an accepted culture, and the event Cities of Poland happens, where we can gain dev in some Polish provinces that we conquered. And there we go. Obviously, whenever you force PU someone, make sure to get them to like you as soon as possible so they don't break free if you disinherit your ruler or something like that. Once you've taken care of Poland and Lithuania, your early game setup is pretty much done, and it's time to start pummeling the really big guys. Obviously, by this point, you already have Bohemia, Hungary, Norway, and Burgundy as a subject. It's already the 1500s, and you possibly have Poland and Lithuania as a subject if you didn't conquer them. So now you're really good to go ahead and start pummeling the Ottomans. Sure, it is a valid strategy that you fight these guys super early on, because let's face it, maybe with just Hungary and Castile as an ally, you could definitely take these guys down, or with Hungary, Bohemia, and Castile or something like that. But in my opinion, the ideal point to do it is after you take care of Poland and Lithuania. So that's exactly another route of expansion that you're going to open up after you take care of these guys. So previously it was France and Poland, and now it's shifted to France and the Ottomans. In our first war versus the Ottomans right here, we're aiming to take some of these provinces right here in order to release Bulgaria and Byzantium from, because pretty importantly, there are some changes right here to the Austrian missions, where if you make Byzantium your subject, you will be able to change them to Catholic and make them the Latin Empire, which is obviously super helpful for a World Conquest One Faith playthrough, because Byzantium, as we all know, or the Latin Empire, has some really good religious focused national ideas, and obviously, since there are subjects, they'll also be taking religious ideas and converting some stuff for us as well. So whenever you're ready, especially if the Ottomans are busy with something else like this, it is time to go ahead and declare on them with whatever CB you want. Personally, I'm just going to declare our little reconquest right here for some of Poland's cores, but obviously we'll be taking some other things over here. And obviously call in everyone that you can to make this war as easy as possible. So now our expansion opportunities are France and the Ottomans. You're dismantling these guys to keep forcing more guys into the HRE from them, and over here you're focusing on taking care of Biz and Bulgaria first before moving on into Anatolia. And once you've wrapped up your war with the Ottomans, your primary focus is taking something like this over here that you can release Bulgaria and Byzantium from, and then anything else you want to take from them that's not for Bulgaria or Byzantium, you can go ahead and take it. Maybe it's something up here that you're reconquering for your subjects, maybe it's something over in Anatolia so you can release someone else like Karaman or Eretna or something like that, or maybe it's some Albanian provinces, whatever you want to. But the most important thing is to take 2 or 3 provinces for Biz and 2 or 3 provinces for Bulgaria. And that's your first war with the Ottomans done. And your next war with the Ottomans and a couple of more wars after that, it's all pretty much gonna be the same thing. Reconquering cores for your subjects, and then taking provinces to release more subjects from, or taking provinces for yourself if there's no one to release from them. Once you wrap up the war with the Ottomans, you should go ahead and take the mission The Ottoman Menace, where we gain a permaclaim on the entirety of the Balkans and 5% army professionalism. And then if you own 25 provinces in the Balkans, which I just happened to do because Spain, I think, gave me this province, Ragusa right here, which I'm actually going to give back. I still haven't cored it, but luckily I'm at 25 provinces. You will also be able to take the mission Liberate the Balkans, where we gain monthly war exhaustion and siege ability along with 100 admin points, and if we have Wallachia and Moldavia as our subjects, we can unite them into creating Romania. Basically, that's a little niche thing right here that probably won't happen too often. You probably won't have both Moldavia and Wallachia as subjects at any point, but if you want to have Romania as a subject, then that's definitely something you can aim for right in the early portion of the game before starting to conquer over here, although I don't think it's very relevant to the gameplay. So there we go. You've liberated the Balkans. Obviously, after wrapping this up, don't forget to release the nations of Byzantium just like that, and the nation of Bulgaria just like that as well. We can go ahead and reconquer their cores later on. And you can definitely keep Constantinople for yourself, or you can give it back to Byzantium if you want to. You are going to end up integrating or inheriting these guys anyway, so it's really no big deal. If you do give it back to Byzantium, it will flip back to Orthodox and back to Greek culture, but later obviously we'll force these guys to be the Latin Empire with this mission right here, where they'll change to Catholic so they can go ahead and convert it for you. It's really up to you whether you keep it for yourself or if you give it to them. In this game, for example, I'm gonna go ahead and give it to them, even though in previous runs I have kept it to myself. And there we go. Additionally, at this point, I can also pass my next imperial reform, but as we can see, the centralization reform for me is locked right here because not enough princes are voting for it. So I am going to wait a little bit more until it's unlocked. After a perpetual diet, this is the one we want to go with. Obviously, I am going to be wasting some imperial authority over here, but that's just how it is. At this point, I've also wrapped up religious ideas as well, which is excellent. Now we have this pretty powerful CB right here, and we can declare on literally anyone, and no need to wait for claims or missions or anything like that. And additionally, obviously, we're going to take this policy for even more missionary strength. So before we've even really started converting, we're already at 10% missionary strength, which is actually really powerful. And now that I gave back the province of Ragusa and I'm not overextended, I can finally pass Reform the Hofgericht right here, which gives us 10% CCR. Now at this point, around the early 1500s or late 1490s is when the Protestant Reformation is gonna spawn, and that's basically gonna be your main focus until you wipe out all the Protestant and Reformed centers of Reformation in order to minimize everything that we're gonna have to convert this campaign. Obviously, for me, it still hasn't spawned yet, and it does tend to spawn a little bit later in this patch, I have noticed. So this is around the realistic time frame you can expect, the 1510s, maybe the 1520s. But while you're still waiting for this, what you're doing is the same thing that we've been doing so far, focusing on France and the Ottomans. Around this point, after you take care of Poland and Lithuania, you may look to secure an alliance and a royal marriage with Muscovy, because we do ideally want to PU these guys right here instead of conquering them. But if you can't do that, like in my game right here, we're rivaled, then you're just gonna regularly conquer them. It's not annoying or anything like that, it's just a little bit tedious because they have so many provinces that are low dev, and you gotta, traverse the Siberian wastelands over here to conquer everything. Ideally, you'd eat up Muscovy before they form Russia, so you don't have to conquer all of these provinces right here. But if you can't, it's no big deal. It's not like you're not gonna do your world conquest or one faith just because these guys form Russia. Obviously, when you have two vassals, you should definitely get a strong duchies right here. It is pretty powerful, even more powerful for Austria. By the way, Bulgaria, you should definitely immediately force them to be Catholic. And while we're waiting to fight France and the Ottomans, we're still continuing with the same minor HRE things that we're doing, basically forcing guys that aren't in the HRE into the HRE. Right now, I'm just going to declare on Wallachia right here and actually not do anything with them. Instead, I'm going to force them to be Catholic, so later I can force them into the HRE. And there we go, that's forced religion. Right now, I'm going to declare on France again because my truce with them is up and I did make them break the alliance with the Ottomans. And it really doesn't matter what we declare for, we're still making them release a bunch of nations. I am going to call in everyone right here to make this war super easy, as always. And now that I've defeated France once again, we're still doing the same thing right here, making them release a bunch of nations that border the HRE. Let's go ahead and check which of these guys border. There we go, there's Berry. How about Bourbon right there? Let's check Armagnac. Well, they technically do, but I don't think all of them, all of it can join. Let's check Gascony right here. Gascony is actually too big, but we definitely can do Orleans, and we can definitely do Toulouse right there. So there we go, we're continuing to dismantle France, and slowly, little bit by little bit, we'll get these guys into the HRE. Once about 50-ish years have passed after you've PU'd Bohemia, you should definitely look to integrate them, but don't integrate them just yet before you disinherit your third rule right here, because obviously there is a pretty high chance we just end up inheriting them. So obviously we start off with that initial guy, then we got Ladislaus Posthumus, then this is the third guy right here. So after you abdicate with the third guy, if you don't inherit Bohemia then you should go ahead and start integrating them. That should be in the early 1500s. So in just about a year or two, I'll abdicate with Ferdinand right here. Then if I don't inherit Bohemia, I'll just go ahead and integrate them manually. Because as we can see, the chance is 31%, which isn't bad at all. And there we go, there's the Protestant Reformation, probably the most important event that we've been waiting for the entirety of the campaign. Now, as soon as the Protestant Reformation spawns, the Age of Discovery will start ticking down, and you have about 20 years right here until the Age of Reformation starts. And it's actually super important where the Protestant Reformation spawns, and you're gonna have to pray right here that it doesn't spawn in someone huge, like for example Bohemia or Bavaria over here, or maybe even Saxony or Brandenburg or the Teutons, those guys are problems as well. You are gonna hope that it spawns, or that it keeps spawning, the centers of reformation keep spawning in one province minor nations. In my game, however, it spawned right here in Cologne. So that means we need to start wiping it out as soon as possible. However, there are a couple of problems right here with it not spawning in a one province minor nation. For example, if it spawned in Aachen right here, since the province would immediately be converted to Protestant, Aachen would most likely also immediately convert to Protestant. However, my problem here with Cologne, or your problem too if it spawns in any nation with more than one province, is that those guys are not gonna flip to Protestant immediately. You're gonna have to wait a bit for their other provinces to get converted and stuff like that before you can actually force them to go back to being Protestant. Now, luckily in Cologne right here, it did spawn in Cologne's capital, which is Cologne itself. So that means once Cologne flips to Protestant, we can declare on them, force them to be Catholic, and because the center of reformation is in their capital, it will disappear. However, if it spawns, let's say somewhere in Brandenburg right here and not in Berlin, for example, in Sternberg, that means we're gonna have to wait way longer for them to flip to Protestant. And even if we force them to go back to being Catholic, because that is not in their capital, it won't get automatically converted and the center of reformation won't disappear. So there's definitely a couple of ways to wipe out the centers of reformation. If it's in a one province minor capital, it's the easiest. You wait for them to flip Protestant, boom, just convert them back, it'll disappear. If it's in a bigger nation but still in their capital, you're still in luck because you can still force them to go back to being Catholic. However, if it's in a larger nation and not in their capital, then you're gonna have to take that province for yourself, or maybe try and release a one province minor over there after you take it for yourself, then wait for them a little bit, then wait to push them back to being Catholic. So there is a little bit of shenanigans involved in wiping out the Protestant Reformation. But after this spawns, this is your primary focus, where 90% of your focus is going to be pretty much, and you're going to focus on wiping these guys out as fast as possible and declaring on any nations that have flipped to being Protestant to force them to go back to being Catholic. Obviously, if you don't border these nations right now, these 120 months is where you have to use the claims bordering claims function right here, so you can spy on nations that you don't border to get claims on them to be able to declare. After that, if you can't do claims bordering claims anymore, you're just going to have to no CP someone. That's the reality. You're not going to get that much aggressive expansion. Let's say, for example, it spawns in Rupen. If I had no way to claim Rupen right here, I'd literally just have to no CB these guys. And remember, if it spawns in a free city, make sure to take away their free city status before declaring on them. So there we go. Cologne is the nation that I'm going to have to fight first. Trier too, most likely. They're most likely going to flip to Protestant as well. So I'm immediately going to start spying on Berg right here, so I can get a claim on Jülich. Then I can get a claim on Cologne. And I'm also going to start spying on Trier right here immediately, because we're going to have to fight them too, most likely. Also, obviously, I need to break my alliance with Cologne as fast as possible. There we go. Another Protestant center of reformation has spawned right here in Lübeck, and this time we're in luck, because as you can see, they're only a one province minor, so they flip to Protestant immediately. And also I border Lübeck, which is perfect right here. And boys, let's be real, this is all down to luck where your centers of reformation spawn. But right now, I'm immediately going to start spying on Lübeck right here, so we can declare on them as fast as possible. As we can see, that center of reformation is already converting Saxe-Lauenburg right here, so we gotta spy on them as well to make them flip back to Protestant as well. But at least this center of reformation we can wipe out super quickly. Remember, there's 3 Protestant ones and 3 Reformed ones. And I'm being real here, if England/Great Britain decides to flip to Anglican, I think you're better off Alt F4ing and just hoping that they don't choose that in their next option. And if some center of reformation spawns somewhere in Ireland, for example, or maybe Portugal or something like that, I have seen that happen, it's quite weird. Or if it's in your subject or something like that, then you're a little bit out of luck. Not to say that you won't do your one faith, it'll just be more difficult. Obviously, at any point you can Alt F4 and try and get them to spawn somewhere else, if that's your thing. Once the Age of Discovery starts ticking down, it is a pretty good idea to start your Golden Era. It's not like it's going to be more useful later on in the game. Might as well use it now while we're really not that powerful, or not as powerful as we're going to be in about 100 years when we own half the world. And there we go, the third Protestant center of reformation has spawned, unluckily, just like I gave the example in Brandenburg, and also it spawned not in their capital. This is the unluckiest so far. That means no matter if we defeat Brandenburg in a war, and if we force them to go back to being Catholic, they still won't get to convert this because it won't be in their capital. And as we can see, they've officially already flipped to Protestant. So something you can do right here is actually take this province for yourself and try to convert it, although there is a possibility that it will have religious zeal on it. As we can see, that modifier right here isn't active. There's no religious zeal right now, so that would actually be a good strategy, although it's still minus 5% local missionary strength, but you can negate that with your strength so far. Or something else you can do if the province does have a zeal and you can convert it is actually to annex the rest of the country, or make them release someone or give these provinces to someone else, so the province that the center of reformation is in is their only remaining province, meaning it's their capital, and then declare on them once again and then force them to go back to being Catholic, so then it will get auto converted. What I'm gonna do in my game right here is force Lübeck to be Catholic. As soon as Cologne converts, force them to be Catholic as well, because it is in their capital. And what I'm gonna do with Brandenburg is just straight up conquer the province for myself and force convert it, because I don't think we have a zeal on there, if I'm reading this correctly. Obviously, if it's in your ally or something like that, you're immediately dissolving that alliance and you're immediately starting to spy on them if you don't have a CB. Obviously, I don't have one on Brandenburg. As we can see right here, Denmark in my game flipped to Protestant as well. That's not really a big deal, and it's not really a big deal if someone else converts or something like that you're gonna conquer either way, unless they're a colonist. For example, Norway right here, as we know, they do a little bit of colonizing, nothing really significant, but it would be a little bit of a problem if they flip to Protestant. Obviously, we can just force them back to being Catholic because they're our subject. This really mainly refers to someone like Portugal or Castile or England or someone like that, even though it is super rare for these guys. At this point, also, I am able to abdicate once again and finally put Maximilian right here, one of the best rulers we're gonna have this campaign, in power. Obviously, we're checking if these guys are still voting for us. Yes, they are. And we're checking if all our junior partners like us. Yes, they do. So now I can go ahead and abdicate with Ferdinand. And there we go, just like that, Maximilian is in power, and apparently, I think, yes, I am correct, I have inherited both Bohemia and Hungary. And by the way, when you do end up annexing or inheriting Hungary, these provinces do have some modifiers that make their autonomy not go as low as 0 that you'll end up dealing with later. It's really not a big deal right now. But there we go, we've got both of these guys. It really doesn't matter if you end up inheriting Hungary. What does matter is getting Bohemia, because now we have the historical center of Prague monument, which gives us even more imperial authority growth. Obviously, as long as the province is Catholic, which in my game, it's not. It's still Hussite, but we'll deal with that short. And there we go, I'm immediately going to start converting Prague so I can take advantage of that. At this point, once you inherit some of these guys, you really need to start your construction on courthouses, because government capacity is going to be a little bit of an issue. I'm also going to give the burghers right here burgher land rights in my game. There we go, in my game, I finally gotten a claim on Lübeck, so we can finally start our first war to make the first center of reformation disappear. We're going to declare using cleansing of heresy right here. Obviously, we're calling in everyone to make this as fast as possible. Make sure to white piece everyone else so you have a very short truce with them in case those guys convert too, and in case we need to fight those guys as well. So the only focus in these wars is making the main guy flip back to Catholic, white piece everyone else. While I'm here, I'm going to declare on Saxe-Lauenburg as well, since I'm already fighting their ally Lübeck. These guys that don't have a center of reformation in them, they're not that important. You can deal with them easily, but these guys that do have it in them, you gotta get on them fast. There we go, Lübeck will already accept the forced religion, and just like that, we're done with them. We flip them back to Catholic, and as soon as we let a month take over, that center of reformation is gone. So that's 1 down, 5 to go. And there we go, there's another nation force converted back to Catholic. Obviously, these guys are important because they lower our imperial authority. Every imperial prince that is a heretic lowers it by 0.01 per month. While we're waiting for our spy networks to finish, let's deal with Saxony right here real quick. This is pretty much all you're doing after the Protestant Reformation spawns. As we can see right here, Nuremberg, a free city in the empire, has converted to Protestant as well, so the first thing I need to do is remove their free city status before I fight them. Then obviously we can give it back or just give it to someone else. And there we go, look at this for example. Let's say Cologne doesn't want to convert because they still haven't, right? They're Catholic. I could try and do the same thing to them like I'm trying to do with Brandenburg right here, basically take the province and convert myself. However, this center of reformation does have religious zeal on it, so it's not possible to convert this province until 1538. So that's why we gotta hope that they flip to Protestant so we can force them to be Catholic. Otherwise, we're gonna have to take these provinces from them, make them be only in this one province, so then they'll definitely flip to Protestant, and then we convert them. There's lots of ways to do this. You will figure it out on your own if I haven't mentioned anything. Now, I've also just converted Prague, which means we are taking advantage of that monument as well. There we go, we've sieged down Nuremberg. Luckily, they were a Saxon ally, and now we can take out 2 birds birds with one stone by forcing them to be Catholic as well in a separate peace deal. And now we can do it to Saxony as well as soon as we siege them down a little bit more. For your tier 5 government reform, I recommend military engineering to make barraging cheaper. While we're waiting for these guys to unconditionally surrender, let's go ahead and declare on Berg right here as well to convert them too. And there we go, now we can finally force Saxony to go back to being Catholic. Once you hit Admin Tech 10, it will be time for your third idea group, and for that, I obviously recommend influence ideas. Very necessary with all the vassals that we're going to play for the entirety of the campaign. Absolute necessity right here. After you get to Admin Tech 10, you will also be able to take the mission Multicultural Empire, where we unlock where the event Reform the Austrian Imperial Government happens, and we can choose between one of two different unique tier 1 government reforms. Let's see what they are. Obviously, the first one right here is the Imperial Austrian Monarchy, which is sort of the old one. It gives our ruler 2 Diplo points, and we also gain -2 national rest, +2 max promoted cultures, +2 monarch Diplo skill, and -33 promote culture cost. And then the other one right here, the Austrian Absolute Monarchy, also gives our ruler those 2 Diplo points, but every time we convert a province's culture, all of our estates get +1% loyalty, and also its culture conversion cost -25% and -20% culture conversion time. It's really up to you which one you go with. This one, obviously, if you're going to convert cultures, and this one, obviously, if you're not going to convert cultures, there really is not that much of a difference for this specific one faith World Conquest playthrough that we go with. If you're going for a one culture as well, obviously you're going to go with this, but if not, it's totally up to you. I'm just going to go for the Imperial Austrian Monarchy in my playthrough right here. And there we go. We're no longer the Austrian Archduchy. This is way better, obviously. There we go. Let's force Berg to be Catholic as well. At this point, I can also pass another Imperial reform. There's Curtail the Imperial Estates. Plus 25% Imperial Authority growth. Absolutely super powerful. Obviously, make sure to take all the decisions that give you missionary strength. Now, my truce with Brandenburg is finally up. I can finally declare on them as well in order to take this province and convert it myself. There we go. That's going to be the second center of reformation wiped out. Unfortunately, Köln is being a little stubborn right here with converting, so we'll see what we have to do with them. And there we go. Now Brandenburg will accept giving me the province of Brandenburg, and they will accept, actually they won't accept being force converted because they did grow a little bit, because they just finished a war with Magdeburg right here, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's really not that bad. In that case, I'm only going to take this province, and then once the truce is up, we're going to go ahead and force them to go back to being Catholic. But our main concern is obviously the center of reformation, so even if they stay Protestant a little bit, it's not that much of a problem. So there we go. There's just the province of Brandenburg for myself and nothing else. Now I own the center of reformation, and we're immediately going to go ahead and start trying to convert it. And luckily we can, and pretty quickly too, which is excellent. So I'm going to get that right away, and I'm not even going to core it. I'm just going to give it back to them. 17% missionary strength already in 1521, and that's without all the modifiers from monuments and stuff like that, and without the Council of Trent being active yet either, or we haven't even embraced the Counter-Reformation. So it's all good with the missionary strength right now. We are being pretty fast. This is a pretty good pace of changing these guys and converting everything. You should aim to have something similar going on in your game as well regarding the time it takes you to do this. Keep in mind, we only have 21 months right here before the Age of Discovery ends. It only runs for 10 years after all, so converting the reformed centers of reformation is going to prove to be a little more trickier than these ones, while we can still do claims bordering claims. Luckily, we did already border all of the guys that we wanted to convert anyway. And there we go. I've just converted the province of Brandenburg and wiped out the second Protestant center of reformation. The only one that's left right now is the one in Köln, which is proving a little bit tricky because these guys aren't flipping to Protestant, so we can't do what we've done so far. And even if I take this province for myself, we still can't convert it because it has religious zeal for about 16 more years. So we'll see what we'll do right here. Maybe I'll declare on them and give some provinces to an ally. One of these guys, maybe I'll ally, feed those provinces to them, but still, we can't force them to be Catholic if they're already Catholic. Keep in mind that during all of this time, we're still converting our subjects as provinces and stuff like that. Right now, I'm going to be declaring on Denmark because they are Protestant, and we either way want to conquer some of these provinces. A good thing here is they're allied to Dithmarschen, which also flipped to Protestant, so we can force these guys to be Protestant while also taking more land up here for ourselves, which is something we do want to do either way. Luckily, their guarantee or Muscovy won't join, so this is a no-brainer. And there we go, just like that, the Age of Reformation has started, and we no longer have claims bordering claims. So any guy that we want to convert from now on, let's say Frankfurt converts to Protestant, right? We are going to have to no CB them to make them go back to being Catholic. Either way, pass all of these things that give you missionary strength. we're at 18% now. There we go, the war with Denmark is done. Obviously, I made Dithmarschen go back to being Catholic, and I'm gonna take a couple of provinces over here for Denmark, maybe even an almost full annexation, but no, that would be too much, so let's just do something like this for now, and we'll take the rest of it for later. And if these guys don't ever end up flipping to Protestant, really the only thing we're gonna have to wait for here is for this religious zeal to expire in 1538, and all the way then take this province from them and convert it back to Catholic before giving it back to them. Luckily, it's only one center of reformation, so it isn't going that fast. All of these guys and these provinces, for now, it's really not gonna be a problem. In the meantime, as we can see, Auvergne has already joined the HRE by itself. We're gonna force Orléans, bury Bourbon, and Toulouse right here pretty quickly, and my truce with the Ottomans is up, so I could potentially fight them, but really the main focus right now is still the centers of reformation. So as soon as those spawn, that's the only thing you're worrying about. No need to deal with any other shenanigans. When you get the Imperial Incident decline of the Hanseatic League, really the best option is to declare an embargo against Denmark, but then again, you should choose the option which doesn't make you lose imperial authority, which in my game is this one. As we can see right now, apparently I've fulfilled the conditions for this mission right here, where Castile gets to become a junior partner. And this really isn't something that you're focusing on. Sooner or later, it'll just happen. And as we can see, the requirements are once again are for the Castilians or the Spanish to have a Habsburg on their throne, which will be easy enough. You'll get it sooner or later, so we're good on that. Then we also need to have a legitimacy of 100, which as you can see we do. And we need our total dev to be twice that of the Castilian, which apparently it is. But then, if we take this mission, we only get the restoration of Union CB on them. However, if we want to get these guys as our junior partner for free, we need to fulfill these other lower requirements right there. The first one being them to have trust of us of 80, then they need to have 190 opinion of us, and our Diplo rep needs to be 4. So let's go ahead and check the trust, check all of these things, because this mission will glow even if you don't fulfill these extra requirements right here. So let's check the trust. Trust is 85, so we're good on that. Their opinion of us is 190, which means we're good on that as well. And let's go ahead and check our Diplo rep as well. It is above 4. Obviously, we're playing as Austria, so that's perfect right there. So just like that, we can go ahead and take this mission now, and Castile and obviously their junior partner Aragon will become our junior partners. So as soon as you are able to fulfill these requirements here and these requirements right here, make sure to read these carefully and check them. You can go ahead and take it. In my game, I'm gonna wait just a little bit. Castile is at admin tech 9. I'm gonna wait them to get up to 10 and form Spain, and then I'm gonna be taking this mission because I really don't want this tiny Aragon that doesn't do anything as my junior partner. So I am willing to wait a little bit. But this will probably be around the time that you will be able to take the mission as well. Obviously, depending on how much Castile and Spain expand, maybe they'll blobbed out over here. Maybe they've got a very large colonies. Maybe they also got Portugal as a junior partner, so they are more powerful than they need to. But let me say that this is not something you need to focus on. You will get it sooner or later. So these guys will still colonize for you, whether they're your junior partner or not. You actually don't want to end up inheriting these guys like we did with Hungary and with Bohemia. You'd rather have them establish all of those colonies first. And there we go, this event is over. We got a little bit of imperial authority, and pretty soon we will be able to proclaim Erbkaisertum right here, which obviously will make the HRE sign a treaty of religious peace, and the HRE will always be inherited by the same country, and subject princes no longer occupy the emperor's diplomatic relations slot. However, keep in mind that if you pass proclaim Erbkaisertum right now, you won't get to declare Catholic as the official faith of the HRE. Instead, it'll just be religious peace. Now, for World Conquest 1 faith, you actually don't need this to be officially Catholic. However, proclaiming religious peace will lock you out of certain achievements, and you will not be able to complete certain missions and stuff like that. So if you're going for those specific things, definitely wait for the Religious League War to fire, or to get that event if the Religious League War doesn't happen, where then you can declare Catholic to be an official faith. But if you're not worrying about any of those things, if you're just gunning for a World Conquest and 1 faith, then you can definitely take this right here and proclaim religious peace. As we can see in my game, actually Spain just formed, but apparently now I am not a larger than them or anything like that. So we are gonna have to wait to grow a little bit more. If I'd taken that mission, I could have PU'd them in Aragon, but I'd rather have one Spain than that Castile and that tiny Aragon. So we're gonna wait a little bit more for this. It's really no big deal. And there we go. Now that I cored up the provinces that I took from Denmark, I can finally pass this reform as well. This is the one you want to go with after this one, obviously. Once again, let me say that this will not make Catholic the official faith if the War of the Protestant League hasn't happened and you haven't gotten the event Diet of whatever, where you get to proclaim Catholic as official even though the war didn't happen. That can happen all the way after like 100 years. So you're doing this early, Catholic isn't the official faith. There we go. Religious peace. That's what happened. By the way, now we don't have to worry about getting elected anymore. We're the official emperor forever. Now it's only one reform left until we revoke the privilege. There we go. Now apparently we've grown larger than Spain once again, and let's go ahead and check the requirements once again. So trust is still above 80, they still have more than 190 opinion of us, and we still have more than 4 diplorep, which means that now if we take this mission, this is what happens. Just like that, we do gain the restoration of Union CB on Spain, obviously, but here's the thing, we don't have to do that. We don't have to declare this war on them, even though we could easily crush them. The thing that you simply do right here in this point is you go into your decisions and you select the option Unite with the Iberian Crown, and just like that, Spain becomes our junior partner for free. That is one of the most powerful missions I've ever seen in the game. Let me say it once again, you actually don't want to integrate these guys until they're done colonizing. Now that my truce with Brandenburg is up, I am going to declare on them a regular conquest right here because we can't make them change back to Catholic, so I do have to dismantle them a little bit. No big deal. Now, a couple of years after you get that PU over Spain, the Imperial Incident, a universal empire will become active, and it's actually a pretty important one. As we can see right here, if we choose this first option right here, Spain will no longer be in a union with us, and this happens, I think, only if you get Spain like this. I don't know if it happens if you force PU them. Literally, it doesn't matter either way. But the option you should select is obviously the second one right here. We will not listen to foreigners as to how big our realm should be. And then we gain 25 aggressive expansion with all the Imperial Princes, and they all start disliking us a little bit more. Now, this is literally not a big deal because at this point, you're not even fighting the Imperial Princess for anything. These guys like you. You really shouldn't have any aggressive expansion with these guys because most likely by the time you get Spain as a junior partner, either you're focusing on the Reformation, just like I am right now, so there's literally no aggressive expansion, or these guys are already your subjects since you've already passed Revoke the Privilege, and it's still nothing to be concerned about. So the option you want to go with right here is this one. We will not listen to foreigners as to how big our realm should be. And what I'm doing with Brandenburg right now is just making them release a bunch of nations and give back a bunch of cores, and then in our next war, we'll force convert them. Now, around the time you gain Spain as a junior partner, you're also going to want to go ahead and ally and Royal Marry Portugal as well. Just like we're doing with England, we're aiming to PU these guys forcefully later on. So, because at this point, you're powerful enough to take on England and Portugal, not that you weren't before, but still, we need to get Spain first. We want to install a member of our dynasty on their thrones as well. Request relative as heir is what we're gonna do if we don't get it randomly. We're just gonna keep an eye out on this right here, and if you see England/Great Britain or Portugal right there being in green, meaning they have no heir, you're gonna go ahead and request a relative as an heir, and then you're gonna have the Habsburgs on their throne as well. And later, if you catch them without an heir, you can just go ahead and claim their throne and PU them. So, guys that we want to forcefully PU without our missions are England/Great Britain, Portugal, and then Muscovy/Russia. You might be able to get all three, you might not. Muscovy is the hardest one, but still, you can go ahead and try later on. And there we go, this is the second event that we've been waiting for from the Protestant Reformation. The Reformation branches out, and this is when the Reformed centers of Reformation will start spawning as well. Now, this one spawned in Nassau right here. Obviously, I don't border these guys, but luckily, they are only one province large, which means if we force them to be Catholic, they'll just go back to being Catholic and we'll wipe this out immediately. Now, since we can't get a claim on these guys and there's no way to declare on them, we are gonna have to no CB Nassau right here to do that to them. This will give us aggressive expansion, obviously, but still not that much because we're not actually taking anything in these wars. So, after you've lost the ability to do claim bordering claims, this is how you're gonna do it. No CB everyone that has a Protestant center of Reformation. You don't need to worry about these guys that get converted because pretty soon we are going to be revoking the privilege. If obviously this is happening for you after you've revoked the privilege, it is going to be a little more difficult and you're just going to have to wait for the zeal, if it spawned at all, let's see right here, yes, to go away, so then you can convert your subjects as provinces. This is going to be a little more annoying, so try and wipe out as many of these as you can before actually revoking the privilege. Either way, it's time to move along, so I'm just going to no CB Nassau to force them to go back to being Catholic. There we go. As we can see, even with the AE from this no CB right here, and with this Imperial incident regarding Spain just ending, still, it isn't bad at all. It's not like these guys are gonna coalition. In my game, there's influence ideas wrapped up as well. Obviously, this policy is useful if you already went with the culture conversion tier 1 government reform as well. If not, you don't really have to take this. It's not necessary. After you've integrated Hungary, periodically, you will gain these types of revolts. And there we go, quick and easy. Now another reformed center of reformation has spawned in Frankfurt. Once again, we're gonna have to no CB them, but first I'm gonna have to wait for my truce to expire and then do it. Obviously, they're a free city as well, so we are going to want to revoke their free city status first. Or alternatively, because I'm pretty close to passing revoke the privilege right here, first let's check and see if there is a religious zeal on this province. And let's go ahead and see, and yes, there is. That means that if I revoke the privilege now, we're going to have to wait until 1559 to convert it. So it's way better for me to hold off on passing revoke the privilege, and instead we're going to go ahead and fight these guys rather than just make them our subject and convert the province for them. We don't want to have to wait that long. If there's no religious zeal, just like it was on that one Brandenburg province, then you can totally go ahead and pass that reform and just convert that province for your vassal. At this point, we're still moving along with forced conversion. And once you're pretty close to passing this reform, no need to really bother with doing this. I'm just doing it so I have something to do, but pretty soon these guys are going to become your vassals, and you can just force the religion on them and convert all of their provinces. Just like that. And there we go, the final reformed center of reformation has spawned. The third one, the last one we're going to have to convert, it spawned in Switzerland. How fitting. Unfortunately, it isn't in their capital, which means we can't force convert these guys. Let's see if there's a religious zeal right here, and actually, let's see. No, I don't think there is, and that's excellent. So we don't even have to bother with converting this one right here or taking it from them or anything like that. Pretty much, as soon as we're done with Frankfurt over here, we can go ahead and pass revoke the privilege. However, since we still have a little bit of waiting, probably around 7 or 8 years until we get this done, I am in fact gonna go ahead and spy on Switzerland and fight them, take the province, convert it, and just give it back to them. There's Cleves force converted. And in my game right here, as we can see, England just chose to become Anglican. I got the Church of England event right here, and this is something you absolutely want to avoid, because if England/Great Britain flips to Anglican, you're gonna have to do a whole lot of converting over in the New World. And as we can see, I already am gonna have to do that because Denmark has started colonizing, so we do need to wipe them out pretty quickly. But once this does happen, I do honestly recommend Alt F4ing until England just chooses not to do it. Obviously, in my game, I'm not going to do it since, let's be real, I can't be bothered to Alt F4 and rejoin the game. But if this does happen for you, that is honestly my recommendation. If you don't like doing that, sure, you could play along. It's not like you're not going to succeed in the one faith, but it will make it more tedious and more annoying. We'd rather have something like this happening that Portugal and Spain are doing instead of Protestant and Anglican. Another bug I need to tell you right here is that the Universal Empire incident will keep re-triggering periodically. This is a bug. It's not supposed to happen. Hopefully it won't happen for you guys. Now that I have a claim on Switzerland, I'll be declaring on them in order to take Zurich from them and convert it. And as soon as we're done with Zurich, I'll be declaring on Milhouse in order to fight their ally Frankfurt. Hopefully they will join so I can go ahead and convert their province without actually declaring on them. Obviously, if you can find an ally to declare on without no CBing someone, then definitely go ahead and do it. And there we go, Switzerland will already accept giving Zurich to me. Obviously, we already checked that there is no religious zeal on this province, which means we can convert it. And there we go. Now that province is ours, and just like we did with Brandenburg, we're immediately gonna go ahead and convert it and then just give it back to Switzerland. I'm still not passing revoke the privilege right here because I want to fight Frankfurt first, wipe this out, and in a couple of years, Cologne will also be our subject. The zeal will be gone, as we can see, in just 6 years, and we will to convert that as well, and then we'll have finally wrapped up the Protestant Reformation. Obviously, anyone that's left over as Protestant, when they become your vassal, you can just force change their religion on them from here. And now that I have a claim on Milhouse, I'll be declaring on them in order to fight Frankfurt to make them force convert this province. For your first age ability in the Age of Reformation, definitely go with Religious Wars. Now I've just converted Zurich, so that's the second reformed center of Reformation gone. And now that I've sieged down Frankfurt, we can force religion on them as well, and just like that, that reformed center of Reformation will be gone as soon as the month ticks over. There we go, as we can see, it's gone. The only one left is this one in Cologne that we are going to convert ourselves for them in just a couple of years, because now we can go ahead and white piece Milhouse just like that, and now we can finally revoke the privilege. And there we go, we demand oaths of loyalty, and just like that, every single member of the empire has become our subject. And the ones that haven't, well, someone like Switzerland, for example, we'll just force them in. Obviously, take a look at all of the supporters for that, because everyone that isn't supporting it won't become your subject, but usually there's very few of those. In my game, it's just one, it's just Switzerland right here, so no big deal. And Venice actually too, but who cares about those guys? Now, your world conquest can finally start. After you go ahead and revoke the privilege, you may be able to take some missions like the Duchy of Milan right here, for example, or something like that. But now, you're also done with the Reformation as well, since we will be converting Cologne province pretty soon. And right now, let's see, everyone that is Protestant or whatever, let's just go ahead and force them to go back to being Catholic. So let's find Saxon right here, scrolling down through all of these vassals that don't take up any diplo slots, by the way. There's Saxony, and we can go ahead and enforce our religion on them. Let's find someone else. There we go, there's Anhalt, so let's go ahead and force Anhalt to be Catholic as well, just like that. Who else is there? There's Brandenburg, and there we go, there's enforced religion on them as well. So now I'm gonna go ahead and find all of these heretic princes right there, which there are 8, do that on them, and then I'll show you the most fun war you're gonna do after you revoke the privilege. Obviously, at this point, you'll also be able to take the mission Austria-Netherlands, where we unlock the Great Council of Mechelen government reform, which disables the Dutch revolt. But really, it's not something you need to worry about. Now I've made every single prince in the empire officially Catholic. There we go, it's as easy as that. The only thing we have left to do right here is mainly convert this Cologne province, and then convert everything for everyone if they don't even do it themselves. And obviously, you don't have to accept all of these royal marriage offers that will keep coming in and keep coming in until you fill up your diplo slots. But it's really not a big deal. Actually, I'm even gonna give Zurich back to Switzerland over here. We'll deal with them later. Either way, after you've revoked the privilege, obviously you can keep forcing more guys into the HRE, like these guys over here, for example. There's Expand Empire. But what I really recommend that you do is simply go ahead and declare on the Ottomans. Let's do a little reconquest for Salonik, for example. And it's time to just sit back, relax, and do nothing, and probably play at about 2 FPS like I am right now. But really, it's as simple as unpausing when declaring a war versus anyone after you've revoked the privilege. If you haven't seen this or haven't done it, it's just super fun. It's super easy. You don't even need to have armies for this, because literally the entire world is your subject, and you can let these guys do all of this. Now, regarding later expansion, when you get to islands or something like that, more specifically Southeast Asia down here, that is when you're really gonna have to get involved with conquest yourself, because your boys, they're not really that good at transporting troops navally. But as for conquering the entirety of Africa and the entirety of Asia and the entirety of Europe, with the exception of islands, they're gonna do a pretty good job, and you don't really have to do anything yourself. It's just awesome to watch this vassal swarm in action absolutely melt any enemy that stands before you. And that's about the early game for your Austria World Conquest One Faith playthrough. Now let me wrap up this war, and we'll do the outro. And once you wrap up your second war with the Ottomans, obviously make them give back a bunch of cores to your subjects, and then take whatever you want for yourself. That is pretty much how the wars versus the Ottomans are gonna go from now on. And pretty much for any other war as well. Let's see, for example, let's do something like this in my game right here, or maybe something like this, and there we go, we're pretty much done. Let's take one more province, because why not? You can take anything you want to for yourself. Conversion will definitely go faster like that, or you can definitely feed subjects as well to save on admin points at any point in the game. And there we go, that's that war done. From now on, we're no longer worrying about aggressive expansion. And by around the time you revoke the privilege, your realm should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as Austria and open up with the classic opening that we've been doing so far, just a little different, obviously, because the missions have been changed up in this latest patch by declaring on Bohemia, PUing them, then expanding over a little bit in Venice so we gain access to the Balkans, then waiting to see if we're gonna PU Hungary for free. If not, we declared war on them, PU'd them as well, so those are two, PU missions that you need to take care of. In the meantime, obviously, you should be dealing with passing reforms right here, royal marrying Burgundy, so you can get the Burgundian succession. It is very highly likely that you're gonna get it. This is probably more guaranteed than the Hungary thing, if I'm being honest, even though it's not related to any scripted events or anything like that. And after that, once we got those junior partners, expansion really started, because we started passing imperial reforms, focusing on passing this one right here so we could force nations to enter into the HRE. These are the nations that I forced in by now. By this point in the game, you may have forced in way more nations than me. You may have dismantled these guys, released nations from them, course, those guys end, you may be done with France already. You may have even taken care of southern Italy in some way, be done with the Balkans or something like that. But this is pretty much how the HRE looks like at this point. Obviously, during the 1460s, you dealt with the Italians leaving the HRE by keeping them in the HRE in the way that I explained, and then you were focused on passing reforms and doing all the things that I said earlier, like fighting Poland and trying to PU them. If you can't, just fighting them to do the same thing we're doing with them and France. And while you're dealing with those two things, the Reformation should have spawned, and obviously I told you how to deal with the Reformation, how to wipe out the centers of Reformation in my game. There's only one left, and pretty soon right here, actually, I think the Zeal is about to expire. In just a couple of months, I will be able to convert the final center of Reformation, and with that, the Reformation is pretty much done. This is pretty much how much it should take a hold of the HRE. After that, it's really not a problem. Something I also mentioned about the Reformation is England/Great Britain flipping to Anglican. This is something you want to try and avoid as much as possible, because these guys are colonizers. They are going to colonize the New World up here in North America, especially. They may even get into Africa or maybe even Southeast Asia or something like that. So you don't want them colonizing Anglican provinces. You want them to be Catholic. You want them to do exactly what Castile and Portugal are doing right here, pretty much colonizing uncolonized provinces, converting them to Catholic, conquering a bunch of the native nations as well, and then their colonial nations will flip those to Catholic as well. Eventually, you will inherit those nations, those colonial subjects, I mean, and you'll convert anything that you have left over to convert from them. And obviously, around this time, also, you should have grown large enough to do this Iberian relations mission, where you're going to gain Castile and Aragon or Spain as junior partners, literally for free. Absolutely amazing. Probably one of the best additions to the Austrian mission tree, and these should be your main subjects by now. Obviously, everyone in the HRE as well, after you pass the, well, let's say final imperial centralization reform, revoke the privilege. After you pass revoke the privilege, you should definitely go ahead and do this one right here. That one's not that important. And then obviously you're going to do this one, disallowing internal HRE wars. But if you've already revoked the privilege, there can't be any internal HRE wars anyway, and you're just doing this for the other bonuses. And all the way at the end of the game, when everything is done being colonized and when everyone is done being conquered, then you're going to click this button, Renovato Imperii, right here, where you are going to become the HRE yourself. And that's pretty much how you're going to wrap up your game. So in about 60 to 80 years, you should aim to achieve this depending on the speed of your gameplay. I wasn't doing anything too crazy this campaign. It was just a normal run that I feel like is easily replicated in terms of pace and everything else. Obviously, after you got Spain, you got Poland and Lithuania too if you didn't conquer them, and then is when you start pushing into the Ottomans as well, and that is how your expansion is going to continue to go on into the rest of the world. Now, obviously, by this point, we haven't only been focusing on, PUing nations, conquering nations, or releasing nations and forcing them into the HRE. You should have also focused on the economic part of the game as Austria in the early portion of the game. Now, obviously, after you revoke the privilege and after you'll start conquering everything, right now, money isn't really a problem, and you probably won't actually be focusing that much on the economy. What you should really be focusing after this point is constructing all of these courthouses. Literally every single province in the world, you're going to have one of these in your subjects and in yourself as well. As we can see right now, I am under governing capacity, but that's because I haven't stated everything yet. And you really will want to state pretty much most of everything that you conquer in Europe. The rest of that you can leave just as territories. No need to establish trade companies or anything like that. But up until this point, up until you revoke the privilege, you should definitely focus on the economy a little bit. Dev up the gold mines that you conquer. You should have about 4 by this point. In my game, I've only delved up the 2 original ones, but we'll get to the Czech one and the Hungarian one pretty soon as well, even though they're not really needed. Obviously, you'll be building marketplaces in all the center of trade provinces. As we can see, I have quite a lot to build in my provinces as well. Workshops in the high value trade good provinces, churches in provinces that gives you more than 0.1 ducats a month, especially in provinces that are hard to convert as well. That missionary strength will help out a lot. A couple of army buildings maybe here and there, even though manpower really isn't a problem due to all our vassals and due to being the HRE emperor. But after you revoke the privilege, you really don't need to build any of these buildings right here. Just focus very, very heavily on constructing courthouses everywhere that you can for that governing capacity, because sooner or later it is going to become a problem. And after this point, you'll continue to expand in the same directions we've already been expanding in. Comparing it to my game right here, let's say what I would do is continue to dismantle France and force every single nation that can be released from here over into the HRE. And then once you filled up all of this right here with HRE nations, then you're pretty much done doing that, and you could completely start to focus on conquest. With the way the vassals work, I do not really recommend it doing more than 1 war at a time, although you definitely could get away with 2 or 3 wars if you do a lot of the heavy lifting yourself. But if you just want to sit back, relax, and do nothing, let the game run on pause and the vassals do everything for you, just do 1 war at a time. You definitely have time. At this point of the game, I have 300 years left to conquer the world, and the hardest continent to conquer, Europe, is already ours, so it's really not a problem. Almost 3,500 dev right here, really easy. But obviously after this point, you don't only have a little bit of conquering left to do, you also need to focus on wrapping up some other PUs that I feel like are essential for a World Conquest 1 Faith playthrough as Austria, and those are mainly England/Great Britain, Portugal if Spain hasn't gotten them, and Muscovy/Russia if you can. I do recommend focusing on Great Britain and Portugal the most, since they would be Catholic colonizers and they would deal with the New World very easily. Even if you don't PU these guys, it's pretty easy to conquer them later on and stuff like that, but why bother when you can just deal with it now? So simply go ahead and, you know, request a relative as an heir when they don't have an heir, and you should be able to PU them pretty easily. Muscovy is also a nation that's pretty easy to PU if you can get royal marriages with them earlier on, because they really don't royal marry or get relations with too many nations. So once their ruler dies, it is actually pretty easy to get a member of your dynasty on their throne, and this is regarding any nation, not just Austria. And it's better to get these guys while they're still Muscovy, because as Russia, as you know, they'll colonize these provinces up here, and that's just a little bit of extra conquest if you don't PU them, or a little bit of extra conversion if you do end up PUing them. Obviously, you're going to continue to go down your mission tree. There are very nice missions right here, especially down here in this branch with permanent modifiers that you want to take care of, so these are super powerful. Definitely go ahead and get them done. All of them should be pretty easy. These little colonization missions right here, you'll do automatically later on. Don't focus on them too much, and there you have it. That's pretty much what you should be doing as Austria. So once you start your conquest, obviously you're going to go east. Your main focus right now, after you've taken care of Europe, is to get to India and China as fast as possible. If you can find a collapsed Ming over here that you can vassalize and reconquer their cores, that is really going to help you out a lot. But right now your main mission is to beeline over to various different regions. So the expansion route I would go with right here is put a little tentacle right there into the hordes, put another little tentacle right here that's going to go through the Ottomans, through the Persia, through the Timurids into India, just like this. Then 2 entry points over in Africa, one that's going to go like this and one that's going to go like that. And then basically you have sort of 5 or 6 different routes that you're going to push into and keep declaring in order to avoid coalitions. Not that a coalition will be a problem, it just may slow you down a little bit. So fight 1 war up here, then do a war over here, then back here, then over here. You get the point. Diversify your conquests into different religions and different culture groups and stuff like that, and you'll be fine. Obviously, there's a couple of monuments you want to get to in order to help you out with your world conquest. For example, this one right here, the Hedelstave Church, would give you missionaries, missionary maintenance costs. There's other missionary strength ones that you can find all around the world. Really, the missionary strength isn't going to be a problem, but you do want to get as many missionaries as you can, either from becoming tier 5 defender of the faith or any other modifiers you can get like this regarding conversion strength and stuff like that, and then you'll be good. So definitely try and up the number of missionaries. There are a couple of monuments and other things that help you out with that. So that's pretty much how your conquest is going to go. Push here, push there, push there, push there. Try and PU Portugal, try and PU Great Britain, try and PU Muscovy. If you can, you should start fighting them as early as possible, because after this point, no one is strong enough to stop you. All of these vassals, they'll do your bidding for the entirety of the campaign. And like I said, around the time you revoke the privilege, your realm should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is going to go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Austria from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.